everybody. Welcome to our workshop on understanding the new labor codes for HR managers. My name is Abhyuday Agarwal. I'm a co-founder and COO at LawSikho, and I have also been leading and co-leading classes for HR for our employment laws courses for the past 2 years, and now we have an expert with 4 decades of experience, Ashok Naik sir, who has experience with public and private sector banks. But I'll tell you, this workshop I will be conducting today, and I will share some. I will let you know what the agenda is for today. Okay, so but can you guess? Okay, what is the biggest challenge that HR managers first face with respect to their day-to-day work? A lot of the things they are able to learn on the job, but one big problem is navigating the labor law framework, right? There are over 100 state and 40 central labor and employment statutes applicable in different parts of the country. When we started to work on courses for HR managers, our first question was this: how do HR managers, how can we make a system for HR managers to learn this easily, not put them off to sleep, not forget about things like, when you're studying MBA HR or you're studying employment laws in college and you're looking at all the forms and compliances, there's a tendency to either mug it up. If you mug it up, then you lose the ability to apply. You can't remember these laws also for a long time. You don't use it for 2 days, you will forget it, right? So we wanted to address a few things. You should not be afraid of the labor losses framework. You should not have to cram it up. You should not, and you should be able to fall in love with it. You should be able to fall in love with it, and you should be able to apply it. Okay, all of these were very, very hard challenges that we took up, because how many of you are afraid of the labor law framework, want to avoid it as far as possible, you want to steer clear of having to interpret or read the law? How many of you want to not have to deal with the day-to-day compliance and forms? Yeah, compliance with various state laws is a big challenge, and the word 100% is very important, because piecemeal compliance happens, but 100% compliance doesn't happen. Whether it is payroll, salaries, keeping registers, filing the returns, putting abstracts out, various things can keep creeping up from time to time. It's almost like, if you have a big organization, labor inspections and raids is a regular thing, right? And we are unclear of the labor law. That's so correct. Okay, Korak, very good. So how many of you say yes? Okay, if you find the labor law system challenging, say yes or why. Okay, that is a big challenge. You want to prefer if you can avoid it, and then you say yes. Yeah, the complexity is literally overwhelming. There is central laws, there is state laws, there are consultants saying something. Then if you apply the law correctly, one more thing happens. You know what? The labor officers and inspectors will still conduct raids. They will send you notices, not worrying about the fact that you have complied with it, right? uh, Yet as you become a senior HR manager, you cannot hope to do your work well without having a grip on these laws. There are I've taught personally over 200 HR managers in various companies. I'll tell you at the end, of whether it is ITC, there is HPCL, there is Nivea, the Embassy Office Parks, various companies. Okay, uh, HR managers have had this issue that we need to learn labor laws one way or another, because whatever we do, somewhere or the other, there is a labor law interface. So I've been involved in training them the nuances of labor laws. Now the good news that we have is this: that the government proposed to replace the 29 labor laws with 4 labor codes out of 100 plus 40. What was happening? See, there were 100 state laws, 40 central laws. 29 of the central laws were going to be replaced by the labor codes. But the problem about this is that those labor codes are still in the works. They are expected to be notified by April 2021. But until that happens, you will have 4 more labor codes to study, which creates a bigger challenge, right? Yeah, very good. You all are sharing a lot of inputs about labor laws being complex, loopholes, and the issue about gray areas. So we're going to come to them one by one. Okay. In August 29, we had the code on wages being enacted, but it wasn't notified. There is a provision in the code which says once the government notifies it to be enforced, only then it will fully be enforced. That hasn't been done by the government because the rules are still being worked upon. In September 2020, the other three codes became were passed as statutes. So they were no longer bills. Earlier they were labor code bills. Then they became labor codes. Okay, they were passed by the parliament, agreed to by the president, but the notification is pending. The draft rules are around, they are published online. Today we will go through one of the codes and one of the draft rules. Do you know why? Because I want to share with you the approach we use in the course so that you can feel a fair degree of comfort with the law. You can feel confidence about having to read the law. And I'll share a new approach which I use when I teach how to read a law, okay, so that you all can experience it firsthand. Okay. But now the thing is that there are 4 new laws that you need to understand, and you also need to map what are the changes. Now, won't other legal professionals take care of this? How many of you think that, the in-house legal team should take care of this? Somebody should take care of this. The external law firms need to take care of this, right? So in-house legal teams do not have sufficient bandwidth to get into everyday legal issues, labor issues. Okay. There are companies which have lawyers in-house. They don't get into payroll. They don't get into compliance. They don't get into employment. You all must already be aware of this. How many of you have seen this, that the in-house legal team doesn't get into the labor aspects? Then labor practitioners, if you go to a lawyer, they would think of it from a litigator's perspective. What do we need to do to win the case? But what do we need to do to prevent 20 other cases from arising in the next 2 years? That is something that is expected from HR managers, of course, and labor practitioners who want to give this kind of advice. Some union leaders are very sharp, but they will not be acting in the interest of your organization. They will be acting in the interest of the workers. Chartered accountants and company secretaries study the employment laws in part in their syllabus. Okay, but like every lawyer, also chartered accountants and company secretaries, they don't practice this on a day-to-day basis. Chartered accountants usually are focusing more on the tax side, income tax act, and company secretaries or GST they are focusing on, and company secretaries are focusing on corporate compliance. If there is a listed company listed on the stock exchanges, then SEBI related compliances also, right? Now, a lot, therefore, by default, falls on the shoulders of the HR managers, literally from the sky, but you got to deal with it. Why do you need to worry now about the labor codes? First thing, why do you need to worry about the legal system? It's difficult, whatever you're doing, to ignore the legal system because our day-to-day tasks involve these knowledge and skills. For example, hiring. You will need to look at, whether I need to notify vacancies under the Employment Exchanges Act. Do I need to give an appointment letter as per my Shops and Establishments Act format? Do I need to have a standing orders in place for these employees I'm hiring? If I release this kind of job post, is it going to be violative of Equal Remuneration Act? Many labor commissioners, labor inspectors give notices for violation of Equal Remuneration Act also. Okay, because it might just be that somebody in a more senior position doing the same work is earning more and you won't know how to defend it. With senior executives, the contracts go in a completely different direction. It is way more complex. In service industry, there's a lot of intellectual property to deal with, right? If you're hiring contract labor through contractors, through manpower suppliers, the situation works differently. The whole hiring process is different there. How many of you are able to follow here? If you can follow and you can relate, say R, okay, that means relatable. Then there is, after you've hired, one part was how to structure the salary payments and how to budget for the social security contributions, and then how to make the various compliances like registers and the returns on an annual basis and periodic basis in consonance with your applicable law. It differs in every state. Okay. And if you have to also sometimes decide that am I within central government framework or am I within state government framework? And this also is not the same all the time. So if you have 40 central laws, okay, it's a very, very big problem, because in those 40 laws, the test is very different. It's not the same test in every law. One thing that the four labor codes are doing is that they are making the test uniform, because now there are only four different laws and they are telling you exactly which government you are going to be dealing with. Okay, and this is not about just the government. This affects your labor commissioners, inspectors, the courts, everything. Okay, the forms, the returns. Okay, so payroll and various labor compliances in accordance with your state laws, where state laws are applicable. But the biggest problem is how to even figure out. Tomorrow an HR consultant tells me that no, you are complying with the wrong, you're complying with central laws, comply with state laws. How do you go about that? Benefits related computation and related work. Most of the times people struggle that, okay, 5 years hasn't passed. Can I put his gratuity in the CTC? And later on, when the employee, what if the employee objects to it? If I hire somebody on a fixed term employment basis for 3 years, do I need to pay gratuity? Okay, all these questions keep arising. Various, even on what part of the wages do I need to compute provident fund or gratuity contribution? Is it on, like, it's on basic? If it's on basic plus DA plus HRA for under one law, then what is included within basic and what is not included in basic? Which are the allowances that go into, which get absorbed? Okay, which allowances or which incentives get excluded? Now these things are undergoing a change under the new labor codes. For contractors, one of the biggest problems is that all the laws have a primary responsibility on the principal employer. So you cannot let go of the audit of contractors. You are paying a contractor for the labor plus service charge for their margin. But if they fail to make their legal compliances, that cost will come on to you. And the legal responsibility, whether it is fine or imprisonment, all of that can also come on you. So there is an audit process necessary to go beyond, right? Audit process is necessary to minimize that risk. Otherwise, you will not know what hits you after 1 or 2 years of hiring a contractor. At that point in time, if you get a notice saying that you've not paid this much, this much lakhs as the social security contribution for these 100 employees, you'll go back into your records. You might find out that, the HR manager was different. Now we don't have records, and now you don't even have the contract, and now you don't even have that contractor supplying labor to you. Then you will be in a big problem. Taking disciplinary action, this is by far the biggest challenge, one of the biggest challenges. The standard way, customarily, that HR managers are following is to have an employee resign on his or her own accord. Because if they don't do that, but what if an employee fails to do that? How will you actually take the disciplinary action and have termination proceedings conducted validly? Most HR managers avoid this route altogether. Okay, and who suffers because of this? You might be afraid that I will make a mistake, but who is suffering if an unproductive employee stays in the organization? The organization suffers. The biggest challenge for employers is what? Why do employers have an HR function? Because they want the human resources to be optimally managed, right? Optimal performance, optimal productivity. The job is not compliance, the job is optimizing performance. So even when we are going to look at legal, we are going to look at this, that how can HR through legal increase the business outcomes? Okay, Shrestha Sarkar is asking me, the codes are published in Gazette copy. Yes, they are published. There are two provisions under law. This is something called, you're a lawyer or an HR manager. If you're a lawyer, then you should know about this provision called conditional notification. There's section 1, subsection 3, which says that the government will notify the codes to be applicable and then they will be applicable. Right now, the notification that has happened is the publication wala notification. They are published as law. Okay, but they are not published to be in force. There are two kinds of laws. One kind of law which doesn't say ki it will be valid when the government notifies. It is valid from date of publication. but the codes say that they will be valid when the government notifies them to be valid. Okay, so one more step is basically being taken. Then, responding to statutory authorities. How many of you have faced an issue where a statutory authority wrote to you? Maybe the labor commissioner wrote to you under one law or the other, maybe Shops and Establishments Act, maybe Maternity Benefit Act, maybe Gratuity Act, maybe PF, maybe Equal Remuneration Act. These are some of the most common situations where we receive these letters. The biggest challenge is was kitna response karna hai? How much do I have to give in writing? What do I have to write? How much evidence is needed? And why doesn't that person close the case? Why do they keep following up with notice after notice? It's like this has become a favorite pastime of the labor commissioner to come and visit an audit and find out one or two gaps with our session, with our shop or factory. In the manufacturing sector, Posh also. Posh is beyond even labor commissioners. Posh may you will have many other reputational problems. Somebody writing online, something is happening. There will be issues of defamation also, and there will be issues of compliance, right? Then in the manufacturing sector, people avoid it. Like HR managers who are in service sector for 7-8 years, they avoid going to shop to factory setting. Why? Because IR I have never done. How will I deal with unions? How will I negotiate? How will I do this disciplinary proceeding thing, standing orders, trade unions? I don't know all this, Baba. I can't do it. Right? How many of you have felt like that? Retrospective payments is a pain point, yes, Chinita, and especially if you dismiss somebody wrong, you will have to reinstate with back wages if they go to court. Okay, so this becomes a big problem. Another problem in manufacturing sector is the Factories Act, because it has a huge checklist of compliances under the act and the rules are different in every state. So Factories Act has state rules and it becomes a challenging task to comply with because the list is very, very big. Now, these are the mandatory tasks an HR manager needs to perform, which have a connection with legal. Okay. And now what we're going to look at is we're going to connect it with ROI also. What is ROI? Return on investment for the business. Why am I saying ROI? Because see, there are three sets of people for whom it is very challenging to demonstrate ROI. Okay. Which are these three? Can anybody tell me? So you want to take a guess on chat? HR, IT. IT, I'm not sure. I think IT will be fairly clear. Sales is always showing ROI. Sales to hai ROI. Sales, marketing is always ROI. HR is not ROI. Finance is exactly. Finance is not ROI by default. It's like a cost center. Okay. Legal is not an ROI. Production is again ROI related. You are creating products. Okay. So legal is not ROI. Company secretary is not ROI. Chartered accountant can be like, I'll say they are still showing some ROI because they're helping you in tax planning by default, right? So it is CS, legal, finance, and HR. Now, the only way we succeed in any of these professions, if we are working for a company, is to ensure that we are helping people get ROI. Why do I say that? Only if you help somebody get ROI can you say that I am eligible for this much. If you're doing a mandatory compliance, then that person will say, boss, tu itne mein karna, ye act mein likha hai, tu ye kar de, 50% discount mein kar. But that person can't say, the employer can't say this if you are helping in increasing profits, increasing productivity, managing efficiency, right? Return on investment. What is the investment of the employer? The investment is in you when they're hiring you internally, and in the employees and in the business. Okay. Now, if you help the employer in getting a return on what they're investing everywhere through your HR function of improving performance, then the employer will benefit from you and you will be in a position to demand more as your share, right? As your remuneration, as your incentive, as you will be in a position to get more promotions, all of that. Correct? Following ROI. So this ROI based, so the way we look at legal is not to just, get your work done. I'm going to look at it to expand your whole horizon, return on investment. Okay. Now I'm going to give you 5 more tasks. Stay with me till the end. I'm going to give you 5 more responsibility areas. You understand KRA, right? Key responsibility areas. 5 more new key responsibility areas that HR managers can take up after which there is going to be no stopping for you on the way to become HR director. Okay, HR manager, senior HR manager, HR director, these are some of the senior positions, right, in the organization. From junior or assistant HR manager, payroll and compliance executive, HR executive. From there, if you want to grow senior, which are the senior most roles? Senior HR manager, HR director, right? These chief people officer, these are the senior most roles, right? So which are the responsibilities that you will take and how you will use law to take those responsibilities? That's going to be the focus. And we are even going to look at the labor codes from that perspective. Okay. So all these tasks that we are talking about require reference to law on a daily basis. Our labor codes are expected to be enforced by April 2021. Currently, draft rules for all of them are in circulation. The codes themselves have been passed as law, but they can't be implemented because the implementing notification is not there and the rules are not in place. Okay, but that doesn't mean that we have to wait and ignore it, because as we should plan, right? What's going to happen? We must plan for it, because one day they are notified and then we'll realize that many mistakes are being made. Then what will happen? We will start getting notices again from the commissioners. There can be risk of fines, penalties, right? And the inspector will come and say that this is old form, old register being kept by you, right? So one notification to implement each of the codes and the framing of rules, the passing of rules basically is left. Okay, so HR managers need to follow existing legal framework, but you need to learn to transition to the four codes very soon. There can be unbelievable. One second, there is a mistake in the presentation. Just give me a minute. Please give me a minute. I'm just checking this. Sorry, I'm resuming now. So in other words, what is happening for you from the codes? Because of the codes, just 1 minute. So all the codes are passed as statutes. This is done. Now HR managers need to follow the current framework and be ready for the codes. You need to watch out for the developments. Matlab, your work has increased. Why? Because something new will happen in the future and you need to plan what changes will be there. So you need to learn 4 more codes plus the existing system. Plus the third thing is how to change. Okay. So you have a big role to play in the success of a business, and mistakes can cost. What are the costs that you have if you fail to comply with labor laws? Now, I'm going to ask you that as a question, okay? And I'll cover those also. Let's understand how can learning labor and employment laws help you. So 2 sides to look at it. One, you can help in increasing the business outcomes, more profit, more performance, more productivity, right? Then what are the costs of mistakes? Somebody wrote penalty, perfect. MD being summoned to court. If that happens, HR manager can lose their job for these kind of things, especially to a criminal court. Criminal punishments, fines, and imprisonment. This is there in every labor statute. You'll be surprised to see, right? And there's a certain sequence it follows if you address situations in time. It's not that, one violation and you're in jail. It's not like that. But how do you plan this? If there is a notice saying that there's criminal action can be taken, then how do you plan for prosecution to fail against you so that you can effectively defend? How do you defend that? Reputational damage. You saw the situation of the Winstron factory of Apple's vendor, right? There was violence in Karnataka, and Winstron's CEO or MD had to resign. contract with Apple was cancelled. So these kind of reputational damage, cancellation of contracts, this becomes a big problem. So you have to look at it not as a legal cost alone, but as the whole overall cost arising from legal violation. The law doesn't say that आपका contract cancel हो जाएगा, but it gets cancelled, right? So if you want to move to senior most positions of a company, okay, either you want to change industries, you want to get into the IR space, the IR space, IR meaning what? Industrial relations or manufacturing sector. There is a lot of complexity in labor laws. Now it has gone into even service sector because of certain new areas of law. You know which ones? Shops and establishments is getting complicated. POSH is there, maternity benefit, various other laws are making it more complex, like CSR related aspects, data protection. I'm going to explain to you how HR managers can look at it. But now the space has become very ripe for HR managers, both in service sector and in manufacturing, to take the lead. Okay, so you cannot afford to ignore the legal system. Now, how are labor codes going to change the landscape? Now, the questions you should have answered to by the end of this discussion are, I'll have to go back to my script. Hang on. Just hang on, guys. I need to keep reloading it for this. Okay, so I'm going to rely on my script, on the document and not the PPT. Okay. So what are the questions you should have the answers to by the time that we finish our conversation? Okay. How do the new codes impact my work? Question 1. What are the major changes under the new labor codes? Which systems and processes in my organization need to be modified? Has my work really been made simpler? In what way? Will the codes be beneficial for my organization? Why are organizations still following the old laws? Abhishek, please tell Sanchita not to do this. When will the labor codes be into effect? How can I transition to implement the new code smoothly? How can I get started with learning? Employment lawyers, by the way, are facing very similar challenges. Most law firms have spun off separate in India, the corporate law firms, they have now started creating a new practice called employment law practice because of importance of employment law issues for clients. In-house counsels of a large Indian company or a foreign company with Indian presence. So two sets, okay? In-house lawyers who work in a big company or a foreign company which has an Indian presence or a startup in India, they need to look at employment laws. Of course, if you are a labor law practitioner, you will need to look at employment laws, and this conversation will help all these categories of people. Now, let us look at the key changes that have been brought up by our major labor codes. Okay, what are there? Let's look at the first aspect: hiring and firing. What do HR managers need to know about changes in hiring and firing rules? So we have are you all familiar with the Standing Orders Act? Say yes if you all are familiar. Okay, now what we will do is we will go through one of these codes so that you all also get comfortable. Okay, Industrial Employment Standing Orders Act was applicable to factories and in some cases even to service sector industries which had service sector companies which had 50 or more people or 100 or more people depending on the state they were in. Okay, now what has the Industrial Relations Code done? It has created a threshold of 300 or more. Before that, you don't need to comply with this. Do you know what is a standing order? I'll give you a very simple explanation of what a standing order is. Okay, it is a contract between the company and you, which is certified by the government. The labor commissioner certifies it. Okay, that means that it is no longer an issue of private negotiation. If you make any change in the contract, you have to go back to the labor commissioner to get it certified. By the way, standing orders can run into 50, 60 pages, and drafting standing orders is a complex task. Okay. Now, what has been said under the Industrial Relations Code is that unless you have at least 300 people, you don't have to worry about it. So, who will take a guess on is this beneficial for employers or employees? Say employer if it's beneficial for employers. Say employees if it's beneficial for employees. It is not beneficial for employees. It is only beneficial for employers. Yes, that's correct. Because if you're a small business, and until 300 people means you can have a business of a decent size before you reach 300 people. Tab tak, whether you are in service sector or you are in manufacturing sector, no headache of standing order. Do you know that IT industry also, companies in BPO and IT industry have standing orders? In Karnataka, there's an exemption if you follow 3-4 conditions, but in many other states, that exemption doesn't exist. So IT companies have started making their own standing orders. Okay, but the problem is that there is so much regulation that you have very narrow wiggle room. But imagine that is thrown off and you are free to negotiate a regular employment contract. Why is it 300, Sanjeev? The government took a call. They said that, okay, it was 100 under our earlier law. In some states, it was 50. Okay. So they said, let's increase it. Now it is their call, right? They could make it 1,000. But if they make it 1,000, then most companies won't have to even deal with it. Okay. So they have to choose that where to keep it, how to keep the balance, right? So they have allowed for smaller companies to be able to do this. You all want me to reduce the font size? Okay. I was trying to have the PPT effect because the PPT is still being made. Okay, let me try. Is this fine? Don't read off everything. Stay with me, okay? In a smaller business, so you understood, in a smaller business, the employer and employee are free to negotiate. But now, in a smaller business, the employer and employee are free to negotiate terms of the contract. And now up to 300 people, you can do that. Rules for, now one more thing is there, the standing orders also say that when you are conducting disciplinary inquiry, you have to pay something called subsistence allowance to the person against whom you are conducting that inquiry. Disciplinary inquiry will happen for what? Can anybody tell me when a disciplinary inquiry is required? Aditya, Standing Orders Act will be repealed. Okay, when this is notified, the Industrial Relations Code will repeal 4 laws: Industrial Disputes Act, Trade Unions Act, and Standing Orders Act. 3 laws. Okay. I'll show you, Tapish, how to find out whether the limit is state-wise or not. In this, it is not state-wise. It is state-wise in Standing Orders Act, but after the code, it will not remain state-wise. Correct, Hari. When there is a misconduct, can I ask you some questions? Is non-performance a misconduct? Is falling sick a misconduct? No, right? Very good. Okay. So only in case of misconduct, if you are pending the inquiry, like what police does. In police, when it is pending the inquiry, you can be arrested and put in jail, right? Here, what happens is pending inquiry, there can be suspension for the workman at that time, but workman is dependent on wages. There's a minimum wage law also, right? So, but you can pay lesser than that. Half of the wages can be paid, okay, during the subsistence allowance period. Now, if you have a 300 ka limit, you don't have only standing orders being applicable, so subsistence allowance question goes away. Okay. Pramod, we will see it. Okay, we will see in the standing order in the Industrial Relations Code. I'll show you how to find out. Okay. See, what happens is there are 2 ways the government can change it. In some cases, the law says government can change this limit, or it says there's no limit. The government will prescribe the limit. In some cases, the law says government can change any or all of the limits that are there, the thresholds in this law. Okay, and more laws nowadays are giving that flexibility to the government. They create a framework, but they give a lot of flexibility to the government. Okay, so you all are understood. This is pro-employer. One thing that doesn't change still is this part. Natural justice is still required to be observed. Your disciplinary process cannot be conducted without natural justice, though you don't have to pay the exact subsistence allowance written by the government. Okay. written under the law. Then how does retrenchment change? What is retrenchment? Anytime you are having to let go of employees, okay, streamlining, downsizing, retrenchment provisions get triggered. Earlier, government permit. So yeah, if you validly conduct disciplinary proceedings, it's not retrenchment. Okay, there are certain technical terms which don't qualify within retrenchment. Do you know which ones? So dismissal, when it is there, it is not retrenchment, but dismissal can happen only from disciplinary hearings. Then there's a concept of discharge. Okay, if the person is medically unable to perform work, non-performance, all of that, you will have a discharge. It doesn't have something called a character stigma. It's non-stigmatic. Okay, but retrenchment here would mean that you are having to lay off the person, and it's not for non-performance, it's not for disciplinary misconduct, but because you are having to, it's not the person's any fault of that person. Okay, so it's not discharge. Also, discharge means relieving from work for medical reasons, whatever. Okay, it's not that. So you have to pay two things: either you have to pay retrenchment compensation, but if you have more than 100 employees, then you needed permission of the central government to lay off so many people. Correct? Retirement is also not included in retrenchment. Very good. Now this limit also is enhanced to 300 employees under the Industrial Relations Code. The procedure for retrenchment stays the same. Okay, what is the impact on salary structures? This is the trickiest part. Okay, and we explain this at length in our course in multiple sessions, and we make you create some salary structures also. Okay, so what is the impact on salary structures, ESI, PF, gratuity, and other social security benefits? There is a good part and there's a complex part also. The problem earlier was that you had to see every statute. You'll have to see ESI Act, PF Act, Gratuity Act, and then you'll have to see what does the word wages mean. Okay, then you'll have to see, acha, basic wages is this, then there are these allowances, then how to add back, what allowances need to be added back, like for PF certain allowances need to be added back. Then third thing you will have to see is that okay, I will add this back, then I have to contribute this money. Okay, now this can differ under each law. Then you will have to see case laws if there's a new case law. So in 2019 there was a law stating that for PF what you need to add back, but that wasn't applicable to gratuity. So the structure of your salary was dependent on what multiple laws will say, and they will say all different things. Now it is not going to be like that. The term wages has a uniform meaning under all the codes. Okay, it makes your it changes your salary structure. Okay, it does that, but confusion goes away. Okay, that is the difference. Okay, Harish, I will give you the new, we'll go through some of the new labor codes, at least one we'll go through. So what are the differences? Let's see. Total special allowances under the code on wages, there is a link for, there is basic. What are the wages defined? They're defined as remuneration. Then there's basic, dearness allowance, and HRA, and then it excludes certain allowances which are not included in your wages, but they cannot exceed 50%, else they will be added back. Earlier, what was being done? The allowances, a lot of the salary was being kept outside as allowances. Okay, so that you don't have to pay social security contribution on that. Incentive pay other than statutory bonus also is to be covered in salary for purpose of social security. Okay, impacts both the employer and the employee. Why? Because the employer has to change the salary structure to minimize. If you have to strategize if you have to identify key what is my cost, okay, on X amount of salary. So I can have a salary of, let's say, 170 rupees. I'm taking a number. Okay, I can have a salary of 170 rupees, but depending on how I structure the allowances and the basic and the HRA and the DA, I may be able to adjust my social security contribution. Now the codes have made it such, they have changed certain rules. So whatever salary structure I was following earlier, that salary structure will today need to change if I want to optimize my contribution for every employee under the code. Then provident fund, there is a reference to the exempted employees under the codes as well. So like who are the exempted employees? Employees earning more than 15,000 per month. That is currently also going to be valid. Government has the power to change this limit. Now, what you have to do as an HR manager is you have to track that are these numbers being changed. There are very high chances that the existing system of labor enforcement machinery, the existing thresholds, there are very high chances that the same system is going to be implemented back into the new system. Okay, but the law makes things more uniform. But your commissioners, inspectors, they're not going to fire the enforcement machinery and then appoint new people right through an exam. They're not going to do that. So the new powers will come to the same people. Okay, and where the laws had certain limits that were working, they will continue to use the limits. That is likely to happen. Okay, payment of bonus act had multiple thresholds. One is of 21,000 limit eligibility for bonus. Okay, total cap for payment of bonus was 7,000 rupees or bonus worked out on minimum wages, whichever is higher. Okay, now this was 50% of minimum wages. Okay, and whichever was higher, 7,000 or the latter amount. Now you will need to keep a lookout. So in some cases I'm telling you the change, and in some cases I'm saying that there can be a change here. How to find that out? It's not there right now. The numbers aren't in force right now. Okay, so you'll need to keep a lookout on the thresholds under the final rules. The limits will get hit because of the definition of wages under each of the codes. I'll give you an example. Okay, suppose your basic plus DA plus HRA is 100 rupees. Okay, your special allowances over and above that, okay, over and above that, they are 70 rupees. As per the code on wages, your special allowances cannot exceed 50% of basic plus DA plus HRA or rupees 50. Okay, so you're paying 170 rupees to the person, agreed, but your special allowances cannot exceed 50. To the extent they do, they will be added back. So 20 will get added back. So your actual amount will become 120 for the employee for social security contribution. Okay, so social security contribution will be calculated over 120. Now as an HR manager, you will look at this, that can I have a 170 ka outgo and reduce the social security contribution a little, because it's adding back the allowances that I've given. I might as well have given the person the basic, right? If I was giving the allowances, and if it's not required, I can just give it directly in cash as basic. So that's the kind of strategic work. Now see, here I'm giving you simple numbers, but when the salary goes into higher amounts, there are hundreds and thousands of people employed, then the amounts become very high, right? Following till here, there will be no ceiling for applicability of payment of wages. Currently, different state governments have different uh, thresholds, and some states like Haryana do not have any ceiling on payment of wages act. But in other states, there is a limit that, beyond this, payment of wages act won't be applicable. But under the new codes, the code on wages, there will be no ceiling. Okay. Correct, Neha. So then there will be an alignment of gratuity to a large extent with PF as far as definition of allowances is concerned. So the Supreme Court's judgment in 2019 came on a case called 𝗟𝗯cie case. Okay, and it was applied to gratuity also, and not just Provident Fund. So this case was on Provident Fund, but the new codes, one good thing that the new codes are doing is the leading case law, which is being relied on, is being properly put very straightforwardly into the new codes. Okay, so what did 𝗟𝗯cie say? That you will have to add back any allowances which are given to people generally as a part of work, which is not production linked, which is not incentive linked. Okay, all of those will be added back to basic wages for the purpose of PF contribution. Same thing now, that is being extended to gratuity because of what is written in the codes. Okay, we'll teach you in detail how to apply this. Okay, ceiling of PW means ceiling of Payment of Wages Act. Payment of Wages Act was applicable to certain up till a certain limit to employees earning a certain amount of wages. Only beyond that it wasn't. Okay. One more thing to note is that in shops, offices, commercial establishments, you don't have Payment of Wages Act applicable. You have Shops and Establishments Act applicable. That is as per the relevant states. However, Minimum Wages Act still applies there. Minimum Wages Act will say the time limit, sorry, the quantum of minimum wages to be payable. But Payment of Wages Act will have other aspects on deductions, timelines for payment, fines, all of that. For shops, establishments, offices, restaurants, all of them, these provisions are there in the Shops and Establishments Act of the relevant state. The Shops and Establishments Act of the relevant state varies from state to state. The most important thing that you need to see about the variation was how big are the penalties. If the penalties are high, then there's going to be stricter compliance. If the penalties are low, there may be lesser compliance. In Delhi, the maximum penalty is 250 rupees. In Maharashtra, it goes on to a few lakh, 50,000, 1 lakh, 2 lakh, like that. They have a new 2017 Shops and Commercial Establishments Act where it goes up to 2 lakhs. Exactly, Archika. Now that means over there people are going to comply strictly, and they have rules like, you have to write the name of the establishment in English and Marathi. So like that, it becomes very strict over there. Yeah, one thing on the punishments that the labor codes have done, imprisonment is going or hugely lessening. Okay, so the risk of jail is not there, but what is coming in is that the quantum of fine is increasing. Very easily a 50,000 or a 1 lakh fine can be imposed. If you look at our earlier laws, fine amounts were very low, and in some cases there was imprisonment. So people were afraid of imprisonment whenever there was a criminal aspect. But here what's going to happen is the monetary aspect is very high. Okay. Inderpreet, I'll have to get back on that question. Okay. I cannot offhand answer that. Okay. Tanya, section 6 tells you what you need to add back in the PF Act. It will tell you have to add back one of them. First you exclude both, then you add back only one of those. Okay. Pramod, Constitution of Grievance Redressal Committee under which law? Under the codes, there are different ones under different laws. That's why. Definition of worker. Okay, why don't we do this? I'm going to complete by 7:30 or 7:45. Then we'll go through the codes, and then you can ask questions at the same time. Okay. Okay, so definition of worker is common everywhere, bringing uniformity. What was happening under the earlier laws? You had three definitions. You had employed person, you had worker, you had workman, and sometimes one provision is coming, sometimes another one is coming, and it was very difficult to understand. Okay, but now what has happened is you have one definition under the codes, which is this Industrial Relations Code will tell you that this is the definition to use worker. There is a definition of employee also, which has been put in. Okay, not for the purpose of the code, but to make things more uniform. Employee and worker have a very, very similar definition. Okay, one thing to note is that the contractor so if you had a contractor supplying workmen to a central to a government undertaking, to a central government undertaking, what would happen is central government, the undertaking would be governed by central government framework, but contractor would be by state government. Now there is a uniformity in the process. You have the contractor also, if he supplies workmen to a central government undertaking, for that purpose contractor is also governed by central government. This is a change. Okay, Tina, Nikhil, Tapish, would you all like, and Pramod, would you all like to put in the questions in a Q&A box so that I can see those at one place when we look at them? Fixed term contracts is a new one which is getting uniformized across the country, and I'll tell you why. Do you know fixed term contracts, right? So if you have a fixed term contract, the contract expires, you don't have to pay retrenchment compensation. Okay, that means you can hire people for a fixed period of time, gives you tremendous flexibility to adjust your employment cycle. And the shortest period for a fixed term contract is 1 year. Okay, so 1 year or more you can hire a fixed term employee for. This was not recognized earlier, except for the apparel sector, and under model standing orders, government amended the standing orders rules in 2017. but only for central government, only where central government could govern the organization. So if you look at the Standing Orders Act, there are certain aspects which certain organizations covered by central government, those were allowed to have fixed term employees, but state government organizations weren't allowed as per the law. Okay. But now it is being uniformized across India. You can have fixed term employees across India, whether the organization is covered by state government or central government. What do I mean when I say organization is covered by state government or central government? See, the organization may be in private sector, okay, but in there are two frameworks. Like, if you look at court framework, you look at inspector commissioner framework, all of that. Okay, you look at the rules that are made. These three things: the inspectors or the commissioners, the courts, tribunals, and the rules. Just remember these three things, okay, and mug it up like in inspectors, commissioners, courts and tribunals, and the rules. These three depend on either the state government or the central government. So there's criteria under the law. If it applies for your organization, you have to choose: is it central government or is it state government based on that criteria. If you solve that problem, trust me, a huge percentage of your HR challenges disappear. Okay, because you will know which law applies to you. You will never have a doubt. Okay, I'll come to that when I show you the code on wages, and I'll make you identify which framework applies to you, and then you can do this process for all the three other codes. Okay, how will okay. Now let's look at trade unions, industrial disputes, and collective bargaining. How many of you are excited and getting value? Say V, right? V if you're getting value. Fixed term contract is a contract for a fixed period of time. So the reason people will do it is this: that at 5 years, you have to pay gratuity. PF and all is anyway being paid. Now the only question is, if I hire somebody for 3 years, what's going to happen? And a lot of organizations would terminate people before 5 years. This was creating a problem for employers also and employees also. For employers, it was a problem because employees would go to court and say that jabardasti terminate kiya hai to not pay gratuity. Okay, this is what employees would say. Employers would also then have this litigation problem. So what the government did, they said that you hire for 3 years and pay pro rata gratuity, pay pro rata PF, pay pro rata all the benefits, you pay pro rata. Okay, then it's done. So this is how the system works for fixed term contract. In trade unions, for a registration of a trade union, until today 7 employees are needed. Once the codes are notified, 100 employees will be needed. That's a big one. Office bearers of trade unions. So you will see that today a lot of trade unions have non-executive office bearer who are either retired people, or sole function is to be office bearer of this trade union. Now, office bearer should be working, it should be executive office bearers, they should be working in the company. That kind of setup is being brought in. Non-working office bearers will be at risk because they will not be able to continue. Recognition of trade unions for the first time, like if you look at Trade Unions Act and all, you'll just have registration provisions. Now recognition of trade unions ka provision has been brought within the code. Of course, there were processes for recognition earlier. People used to follow a specific way, floor test and all of that to recognize. But now it is strictly there in the code, making life very easy. A recognized union must have 51% or more employees on muster rolls. It's clearly written in the Industrial Relations Code. So you can basically have a clear process to recognize, and it says that you will choose then to negotiate only with the recognized union. But there are some matters which government will prescribe. Only on those matters you will deal with recognized unions. Other matters may not be covered in that. Okay, but the chances are that government will prescribe most matters which are subject matter of collective bargaining. Most of those matters will go there. Right, so this is the language. Now whenever you see this word prescribe, I'm going to do this on the code, okay, but if I do it right now, I'm going to not be able to switch documents so fast. But whenever you see the word prescribe, you must always understand that this is going to be prescribed by either the central government or the state government. Okay, that's what's going to happen. So today when we see the code on wages, we'll see which rules will be made by the state government. Right now you have draft rules made by the central government which are being circulated. Okay, Nishant, it says muster roll. Yeah, so that will have to be seen. Contract employees won't be covered. how to go through the labor codes on your own. So this is a very exciting part. I'll first help you map the codes to the current framework. Okay, so what you should sit with, either make a note on Microsoft Word or in a note keeping tool, or sit with a pen and paper. You identify, there are ways to look at it. Okay, one way is to look at it through codes, and then I'll tell you another way to look at it. So if you have the Industrial Relations Code, there are 3 acts. Okay, it maps: Industrial Disputes Act, Trade Unions Act, Standing Orders Act. Okay, 99% is applicable to manufacturing, but Standing Orders Act, there are, if you look at the definition of industry, it can apply to a big service sector industry also. Trade unions can be there, and standing orders can apply. Okay, even like you have IT company with 1,000 people working, these can apply. Okay, the only thing people used to say is that I am not a workman because what I am doing is a managerial or supervisory work, so I'm not workman. But you'll not be able to always say that in respect of even IT industry. Okay, so so this part you need to be very clear of. Unions may not be there. Sometimes employees don't want to make unions voluntarily, especially in sectors like IT industry, because otherwise क्या होगा? You make a union, foreigner से contract नहीं आएगा, तो the turnover will only go down. So you decided to do collective bargaining, but the business suffered so much that nobody has a job. So that is one reason. That's a practical reason why unionism is not very active in the IT industry. But Standing Orders Act still is applicable, okay? Except in Karnataka, where you can claim exception. Code on Wages, 4 acts. Payment of Wages Act, Minimum Wages Act, Payment of Bonus Act, Equal Remuneration Act. So lot of harmonization has been done between these acts. Equal Remuneration Act may earlier law said that no discrimination between men and women. Now it is saying between persons. Okay, so Supreme Court, and there has been a movement on the gender space, and even if you're not a man, not a woman, other gender is also covered. Okay, then Code on Social Security covers about 8-9 statutes. PF, so just look at the major ones. PF, ESI. ESI goes mostly in manufacturing. Where ESI is not applicable, you have Employees Compensation Act applicable. Okay, basic rule. PF, gratuity. Then the other ones, Employment Exchanges Act. Maternity benefit goes here into Code on Social Security, largely similar to the existing one. Okay, maternity benefit, no major changes. Building and Other Construction Workers, CES Act, Senior Workers Fund Act, Unorganized Workers Social Security Act, getting into here. Okay, so now what you have to see is that, okay, in my organization, which ones will be applicable? See, equal remuneration is always applicable. Minimum wages is always applicable. Okay, if you look at your State Shop and Establishments Act also, it will say there will be a minimum. So the Minimum Wages Act schedule will say that all other establishments, this is what will be applicable. So it goes outside factory. Okay, Equal Remuneration Act also goes everywhere. So kuch bhi kar lo, this will apply to you, even if Payment of Wages Act doesn't apply because you are in a shop. Okay, Code on Social Security, again, PF gratuity will apply all the time. Maternity benefit will apply. You have to see the minimum threshold. Does 10 people, 20 people, like that. POSH is not in these codes. POSH stays separate. Okay, Occupational Safety, Health and Working Conditions Code has lots of acts, but the major ones you might want to see are Factories Act, Contract Labor Act, Building and Other Construction Workers Act, very similar to contract labor, some differences, and Interstate Migrant Workmen Act, also very similar to contract labor with certain differences. Okay, and then if you have like sales promotion or journalists engaged, then you could have these applicable. But the key ones to note: Factories Act, Contract Labor. So you can like tick mark, or you can write in your notes that these are the ones that are applicable to me. Okay, so this was step 2. So as I was going through it, you mark out that these are the main things that are applicable. After this, I'll tell you which ones don't, which ones are outside the code, so they'll still apply to you. Okay, that I'll tell you after this. Now you will have to do a step 3. This is where it gets tricky. You have to identify the key thresholds or processes that change. This we will do by going through the code, and I'll teach you how to read through the code so that you can get started on identifying what processes change, what processes don't. Okay, then you go through the draft rules of every code. We'll go through one right now, and then you track whether which notification is going to come up, whether it's notified or not. Okay, you have to look, because they're saying April they'll notify, but it was contingent on something getting completed by 31st Jan. Okay, so you have to see whether the notifications are coming or not. Which question, now I'm going to do a screencast and you should look at answers for certain questions. One question, you will have to find out, this is your task, okay, when I go do the screen share. Which everyday tasks will be influenced by the new labor codes? You'll have to find out at least one. Legal risks for violations for organizations, directors, and HR managers, and how you can minimize them. You'll have to think of this and find out the violations first. How to read a labor code yourself and compare it with existing law without feeling lost. This is an outcome I'm promising you after I complete reading the codes. Powers of inspectors, commissioners, and other authorities, how to be prepared for the inspections. This is something I'm going to ask you. Okay. And then how can you contribute to legal teams when there is a notice or a raid or a matter escalates to a labor court or a tribunal. Okay. So now I'm going to go on to the labor code on wages. This is the code on wages notified in August, only as law, not published to be applicable. Okay, so the first two things I told you, commissioner, rules, and courts, right? So for that, what do you need to see? You need to see a term called, you need to first go to the definition section. Before you go anywhere else, you need to go to the definition section and see a definition called appropriate government. This will tell you which state rules will apply to you, which commissioners will come to do raids, which courts you will have to go to. Because have you heard this term called CGIT, or have you heard Industrial Tribunal cum Labor Court, or CGIT, Central Government Industrial Tribunal? So that CG is standing for central government. If for your organization it's state government, that you have to find out. Okay, so I'm going to teach you that process of how to do this. Okay, I'm going to zoom in. Appropriate government means an establishment carried on by or under authority of central government. Okay, or an authority established by central act or central public sector undertaking, or a subsidiary of central public sector undertaking, including contractors establishment. See, this is the part I was telling you, that contractors also will get covered if they're supplying labor to central government related PSUs, corporation or other authority. So for them, it's the central government. In relation to any other establishment, state government. So for how many of you is the appropriate government the central government? So if you are from a bank, insurance company, you're from an airline, you're from an oil field, you're doing mining, or in a major port, there are about specific ports notified as major ports under Major Ports Act, or you're a PSU, okay, or you're a company where central government owns majority. Okay, that's a central public sector undertaking. Okay, then it will become central government. So anybody from these companies? Okay, Chirag is asking me a question. Is there any time limit for a certain time for union to be recognized? If only one union is recognized throughout, there are chances that it could change its stance. Yeah. So Chirag, we will go through occupational safety code. I'll show you the recognition ka provision, then you can see it. Okay, it's a good question. So appropriate government. Now, anybody for whom it's central government, or are you all from private undertakings, private companies? So even if state government, you're from a state enterprise, then also it will be state government. Now, why is this important? I'll show you. Okay, now when you see something, there's a provision called at the end, you see this provision, power of the government to make rules, and it's saying appropriate government. If you do a full Control F search, thankfully this is like you can do a Control F now. If you do a search, you'll find out that all the work that the government has to do will be done by the appropriate government. So how many of you, is it the state government? What is KOPT? Krishnendru, Indian Air Force, central government. Yes. Defense may not even be within this. Mr. DS Malik. Indian Air Force का देखना वो रहेगा नहीं. If you are a private company working in port trust, that's fine. The company is covered separately, right? So you have to see then which is the government applicability, foreign bank, state government, private company, state government. Okay, now what does this mean? That draft rules of the center won't work. Okay, draft rules of the center won't work. You need draft state government rules to be there. Okay, and what will the rules tell you? The rules will tell you all this and much more. Calculating wages, all of that. A lot of things will be done by the rules. Deductions, recovery, all of that. Chinhita, yes, that will be state government. Okay, so private sector or state government undertaking, it is the state government. What you want to do now is look at this in the other codes also. Earlier, this was different for all the laws. In every law you had to see the definition because it was different. Here there is a lot of similarity now. Okay, now quickly I'm going to show you what one more thing to do. So you all understood that the draft central government rules won't work if your appropriate government is state government. Okay, now what you need to do is check if your appropriate government has passed any rule or not. It is likely, however, that what the state governments will do is once central government rules are passed, they will all use that format. Why? Because there's a big initiative to make it all uniform. So right now you see a lot of disparity because different governments have created different rules, different political administrations have created different rules. Now, because of the intention to create uniformity, you will find that there is similarity in the rules even if state governments make it. Okay. So let's see what. So 71 instances of appropriate government, but you will find, look at this, inspector cum facilitator means a person appointed by the appropriate government. Okay, so your inspectors will be there by the government will appoint, state government for you. Prescribed means rules prescribed by the appropriate government. So anytime, so you're going to do three things. Okay, you're going to use the word prescribed, and where all has it been written that prescribed, wherever it's written prescribed, that is going to happen for you by the state government, wherever the word prescribed is. And this is common to all the labor statutes, even the current labor statutes. Older system, not the codes, older system also, this works. This we teach in the first class of the labor law course, because of which what happens, the remaining 6 months people are enjoying it. Okay, so they enjoy it because they get a full grip on how to go about reading the statute. Okay, everywhere you see prescribed means prescribed by the appropriate government, meaning state government. Clear? Let's look at fine. Okay, you all wanted to see now what is the fine. So this is the definition of the term worker. So worker is defined and employee is defined in these laws. Okay, very similar to definition of workman under the earlier code or under the Industrial Disputes Act. Now I'm going to show who is going to be responsible. Okay, so let's see. Now this is what the trial process is. See, 50,000 is very easy. 1 lakh rupees. Okay, 20,000. Okay, different offenses. Sometimes it's for a repeat offense. Okay, but what have they done away with? They have done away with jail unless you're doing a repeat offense. Jail is there only here. Okay, imprisonment for 3 months if you have paid less than the amount due under this code. More than once. Okay, then you may go to 3 months jail. Otherwise, again, repeat offense, you go to jail. Otherwise, jail is not there. Okay, now this is a good thing for companies. Monetary fine is increased, but jail has been reduced. Okay. All right. Now I want to show you a provision called what happens if the company is responsible. So they are going for a private limited, right? So who are they going to punish them? See here. If they identify any director, manager, or secretary or other officer of the company who has done this because of their negligence, okay, then that person will also be guilty of that offense. So individually, that person will have to pay that fine. So it's possible that 50,000 is to be paid by the company because it was default, 50,000 to be paid by company secretary, 50,000 to be paid by director, 50,000 to be paid by HR manager if it's an HR director or a senior person or a manager. Okay, that becomes a problem. Are you following till here? So how many of you followed this imprisonment part, that jail is less, fine is there, but fine is high, and fine could be there on any director? Okay. Occupier award was there only in Factories Act. Okay, that was a good thing because you could say इस factory का occupier कोई और है. Okay, but otherwise all the statutes are saying that the directors of the company directly are liable, which is the biggest problem. You get a notice, and even before liability, if the court calls the director, says that no, you are HR manager, you're not okay, you call your MD, you call your director, then it becomes a big problem for you to manage. Also, a lot of times these things get covered in the news and there is negative reputational damage, even if it is not proven there is a fault on your part. Just this aspect getting covered creates a big reputational damage, right? So let's see which parts you all could follow. Okay, so I'm going to review which everyday tasks are influenced by the new labor codes. Now I'm going to show you the definition of wages again so that you can follow this. How many of you want to see the definition of wages? Couple of you already have a sense of this. Okay. So we have only 3 hours, so there's going to be a limited time that we can spend on this today. But in the course, we do it in a lot more detail. We make you create salary structure, clear doubts, and all of that. So wages means, so here it's there, okay? Includes basic pay, dearness allowance, and retaining allowance. Excludes or does not include various things: bonus, house, house accommodation, any contribution to pension, PF, conveyance allowance, okay, HRA, all these are written. But now you see the rule below. For calculating wages, if these payments under A to I, okay, only till here, exceed half or such other percent, central government can change it in the rules of the remuneration. So this is why, because बाद में problem होगा तो central government can change this, right? The amount which exceeds such 1/2 shall be deemed as remuneration and be added back. So we had 100 plus 70, okay, and some of that was exceeding the half. So we were having 20 added back because only 50 was half of 100, right? And we had 70 as the other special allowances. So we added it back. Okay, followed this. So now that way you have to change the computation. This is going to change your PF, gratuity, salary structure, and leave encashment. Okay, won't be able to do right now on dearness allowance. We want to proceed, but we can do in the course in a lot more detail. We have a lot more time there, right? So okay, now how many of you, so let's just do some exercises so that you develop some muscle in doing this yourself also, and then those of you who want more guidance can approach us. Okay, what are the risks for organizations for violations? You all followed under one code. Can you do this in for other codes? Yes, PF calculations on allowance change, and for that you have to look at Social Security Code. Okay, there also the basic wages, the calculation is different because it's now uniform in all the codes. How will this be useful for practicing lawyers? Practicing lawyers are very heavily dealing with employment litigation and things like ESOPs, CSR. Okay, you will deal with industrial disputes. You should be looking at collective bargaining. In cases of business transfers, you're looking at all of the retrenchment aspects. Okay, so law firms have created employment law practices, so it's impossible for lawyers now to avoid it. Okay, now PF will be calculated on gross HRA. HRA is excluded there, right? I'll just show you PF. Okay, so okay, we'll not get into a lot of questions. I want to show you one set of rules, please. I want to show you the rules, everybody. So you all followed the consequences. Do you want to look at the powers of inspectors once before we go into the rules? Inspector, and somebody said no. What did you not follow, Sandeep? You want to look at inspector powers? I'll just show you quickly. Okay, so here they have been called facilitators with the hope that there is less harassment. I'm not sure how that's going to pan out. Okay, now inspectors' powers are here. The government appoints, it says that this may be by the appropriate government. But what can they do? They can give you advice what to do, what not to do. They can inspect. They don't give you, they can do surprise raids. They can ask you questions. Okay, any worker can be asked questions. They can ask for copies of documents. They can seize documents, search in the premises. Okay, they can also tell the government what is not covered by any law and where employers are taking an advantage, and other powers can be there. And it's a criminally punishable offense if you don't respond to an inspector. Okay, now and everything that the police can do in search and seizure, look here, criminal procedure code is mentioned. So whatever the police can do in criminal procedure, in criminal cases, similar search and seizure powers are there. Okay, with respect to labor inspectors. All right, so handling the inspections and raids becomes important. And what the inspectors do, sometimes they will do surprise raids, sometimes they'll send you letters, first ask you questions, then they'll do a raid, then they'll give a report, and then they'll ask you to give a compliance report, right? So all of that will happen. Okay, now the draft rules I will take you through. So these are the central code on wages rules. For you, you will have to look at the states, right? Now let's go through the rules. I'm going to share how to go through it, how to absorb it, and then prepare for transition. Every question, once I share one provision, you will have 20 questions. So we'll not be able to deal with every question right now. To the extent possible we can, but understand this, आपका एक question अभी है, कल दूसरा होगा, परसों तीसरा होगा. तो how will you build a muscle to address every question? Right now, if somebody with 40 years of experience is teaching you that, then will it become better? 40 years of experience, private sector undertakings, public sector undertakings, banks, service organizations, then manufacturing sector, will that help you? Somebody with 40 years experience teaches you how to understand this, read this, do it yourself independently. Will that be useful? Okay, now let's look at the rules. Okay, say yes if you're following, say no if you're not following, and say E if you're enjoying. Okay, now they are saying that which rules are being removed. So this makes the whole system very simple. The best part about the rules, once they get notified, is you will have one thing to look at. Okay, uh, now let's see how to go through the rules here. Okay, the minimum wages shall, so these are criteria. Okay, now this is not telling you the amount. So these are the principles. And then they are saying that daily wages are there, then you divide for the day by an hour. Again, principle. So you have to move out from the principle based ones right now, because you're not going to challenge the rules, right? You're going to look at what the actual rules are. Now this is telling you the number of hours, this is telling you for rest. So everybody was asking for spread, intervals, all of that. With respect to situations where the code on wages is applicable, here the rules are going to be there. Okay. Then the rule for dividing the monthly wage by 26, all of this is there. So you are going to have a lot of standardization here. Hi, welcome back. Can you all hear me? Can you all hear me? Yeah, okay, great. So I'm going back into this. All right. So what does this mean? You don't have concrete numbers. This is all going to be notified. Okay, so you're going to have principles here. That's what the state governments will do. Then they will have separate notifications to notify the amounts. Now it is these things that you will have to track, and you'll have to track how your work changes after this. Okay. Uh, One thing to note is a lot of this is consolidation and putting together multiple laws together. So life definitely gets simpler. Okay. All right, so I'm going to move beyond this now, and I'm going to check if my presentation allows for. Abhishek, just give me an update on the presentation. Okay, so the full impact and transition is to be knowable from, you have to see the word prescribed, and you can do a control F also to do it. You have to look at appropriate government as well. Okay, now this is just the start. Which major labor laws don't get updated? Okay, Bipin will teach you everything you can do autonomously. You can do compliance. Okay, I'll show you how the HR managers have benefited. You can do much more than this. Nishant knows, he has been in our course and he has been learning from Ashok Naik sir. I'll ask him to speak in a bit. Now, which major laws don't get replaced and what HR managers must know about them? Sexual harassment of women at workplace act stays as it is. There's a lot of innovation to do. You know why? There are a lot of gray areas in the act. Okay. One thing is that I must understand what the law says, but I have to go beyond. If you want to make a great workplace, okay, few things you will need to do is that you will have to customize your policies. You will have to have a functional internal complaints committee. You will have to have a robust complaint making system. You will have to do proper inquiry. It has to be very tight. Clear principles, good trainings. Employees need to know how it works. You may need to make it gender neutral, should be applicable to members of all genders, not just women. All those things, if you want to learn how to do, okay, then that support is available. But that is what HR managers of today are required to do, because this law has put in some level of protection. How do you fully implement that? How do you enhance that? There are many complications which arise when you're operating in hotel industry, hospitality industry, banks, because they are customer facing. When you're doing this in malls, again, there's a big challenge. Factories is a different challenge. A lot of times workmen may want a different, they culturally they look at this differently. So you have to do some orientation around that before you can sensitize them on the provisions. You cannot do any employment training on this law by saying this is the law, you need to follow. You will have a revolt in the organization. When I used to conduct trainings for organizations, whether it is Fortune 500 companies or a government organization like TIFAC, this was really important, or a construction company like JCB. Okay, what we had to always see is that the are we actually being able to respond to the cultural context of the trainees? Okay, and the law says सबको sensitize करना है. So you can't say, oh, corporate office में हो गया, factories में we haven't done. That won't happen. There's a return that has to go to your local district or district magistrate, and then in your central company में, when the report comes, annual report, your director has to say that we are complying with the POSH Act. Okay, then uh, Shops and Establishments Act of relevant states are continuing to be applicable. They don't get replaced, will not get replaced. Tasks remain the same. EPF Act does not get replaced. Okay, stays where it was. Okay, Profession Tax Act applicable only to select states. Okay, let me just confirm the PF1. Social, no, Code on Social Security is taking it in. EPF Act gets replaced, but provisions are very, very similar. Shops and Establishments Act doesn't get replaced. Profession Tax Act doesn't get replaced. It's applicable only in some states. We've written where it's applicable. So Profession Tax Act continues to apply. Specialized PF laws for seamen and workers in coal mines, you'll have to see that act is separate. Apprentices Act doesn't get changed. Okay, what are the unique things? In some industries, you will be hiring apprentices. They are applicable to designated trades. There's a list of professions in which you can hire apprentices, and there is a stipend that is written, something like a 7,500 amount is written to be paid as a stipend. And you will have to, it's not under minimum wages, it's a different, the act itself has a stipend. It was amended recently with the rules also being amended. The apprenticeship contract has to be registered with an apprenticeship advisor. Leave provisions are different from Shops and Establishments Act or Payment of Wages Act or your Code on Wages. Then there is something called the National Employability Enhancement Mission. Various industries, big companies will have NEEM trainees. How many of you hire NEEM trainees? Let me know if in your organization you all have NEEM trainees. So engagement through a NEEM facilitator is needed. That person must be compliant with the AICTE scheme. Duration is 3 to 36 months. Designated work hours, overtime is not allowed without approval of supervisor. Supervisor meaning in the organization, not the NEEM person. Leaves must follow the organization's policy. So you notice the difference. When you're hiring interns, you could have interns, you could have apprentices not covered by the Apprentices Act, you could have apprentices under Apprentices Act, you could have NEEM trainees. Okay, these are separate categories, and iske liye bhi you will have to create a framework. Okay, for accidents, your liabilities of the NEEM facilitator. Child Labor Act with updates is not replaced. Okay, then what are the additional responsibility areas that will accelerate the growth of HR managers? Here, there's a lot of cutting edge research that we've been doing. So I'm going to share with you. Okay? I don't know whether you all have tried to implement these, but for example, CSR, okay? HR managers, as an HR manager, what can you do in the area of CSR? So there's an ISO standard called ISO 26000, okay? Do you know that this is one standard which is a self-certification standard? Do you know what's self-certification? In ISO 27000, you need a consultant to certify your company to be compliant with that. Most ISO standards are like that. International Standards Organization, most of the standards are like that. But ISO 26000 is not like that. You can yourself certify yourself to be ISO compliant, but there are parameters to be met. There are parameters on labor, social impact, environment, all of that. Labor being one, but HR managers can look at all the aspects because this is the best positioned for HR managers to look at. Okay. Is ISO applicable for all industries? No, it is not applicable for all industries. This is voluntary. But if you say I am doing CSR as per ISO 26000, your reputation is going to be surging across. Okay. It is like a best practice to be compliant with ISO. Then how else can you help? One is the compliance with ISO 26000 and continuously keep self-certifying yourself when you're doing that. Okay. Selection of projects. What should we contribute? Which entity should we, which projects get CSR funds from our company? Now, companies do two kinds of CSR. If you are above a particular threshold under Companies Act, you have to do mandatory 2% of profits have to be spent on CSR. Okay. But there are many companies which do it voluntarily also. Okay, in both cases you will have the responsibility to spearhead this initiative. What can you do with CSR? You can do selection of projects, you can help with improvement of policies, you can for CSR which projects to contribute to. The way CSR is usually done is it is a brand building activity. Even if it doesn't directly benefit you, you will use it to enhance your reputation and image in the society. You will want to monitor the end use of the funds contributed through CSR. That will happen only if you understand how CSR works, right? You'll have to figure out what are the provisions for rollover of unused funds. Sometimes you have a CSR budget, but you don't find good enough projects to contribute the money to. Does it mean you waste your CSR funds? You can't do that, right? So you roll them over to unused funds. Okay. Then what else do? You prepare reports for directors who will finally, your director or your director will sign it. The CFO and the CS will prepare the report under Companies Act and SEBI regulation. If it's a listed company, under SEBI regulation also, otherwise only under Companies Act. But they need data. क्या हुआ CSR initiative में? What happened? Who benefited? What was the impact? So this is what you can help with. Okay, how many of you are interested in doing this kind of work? Why I'm suggesting, because remember when we started, I said you have to help the business person, the founder, in generating ROI, right? So that ROI is really important, and these are the additional routes through which you can do this. Okay, another way in which you can do another key responsibility area you can add is looking at data protection work. Okay, Indian companies which have European or US clientele, they need to comply with EU GDPR or Europe or American data protection law. What is EU GDPR, General Data Protection Regulation of the European Union? There what happens, you have to take valid consent from customers before collecting their data. You have to tell them for which purpose you will use it. Okay, you have to monitor the usage. That data cannot get leaked out also. If there is a breach, then you have to inform. Okay, so this is becoming very important today in the whole industry. Why? Because there's a lot of internet and cloud based services, and data is what people are, all the new businesses, they are being, data is a key component for making a business grow. It's been said that data is the new oil, right? So various companies are exploiting the data, but the point is that how do you exploit it is limited by the data protection regulation. Okay, now some of the companies in India, what do they do to do that? They obtain ISO 27000 ka certification, which demonstrates GDPR level compliance and is internationally recognized. Indian law doesn't require right now. India is going to have a personal data protection bill. But if you do ISO 27000, you will involve an external consultant who will help you making policy and they'll give you certification. Okay, but the point is that you have to spearhead it internally in the company. If you do this, what happens is that the company can get foreign business, okay, foreign clients. And how does a company work? Like all these modern companies, they are going to charge foreign clients a certain amount, like 20,000 US dollars, 1 lakh dollars, 10 lakh dollars per year, and it will be a renewable contract. Now, if you do something like ISO 27000, you have made the market of multiple continents available to your company to expand. Okay, so this is serious business growth stuff. This is not cost center work, cost center or compliance work जहाँ पर आपका ठप्पा चाहिए just to file a return. This is not that work. Okay, are you able to follow how important this data protection work is? Similarly, CSR, your CSR work is very similar to the PR side. It's like you're building the company's brand. CSR करने के बाद you have to also be involved in the PR aspect of CSR. Okay, then data protection work. What else? Now let's look at more of data protection. Okay, the compliance work. Why am I saying HR managers need to do it? By the way, you will be surprised. Okay, so your compliance in data protection is a function of process. Can you tell me who in the company is best positioned to work on process? Who in the company is best positioned? You look at finance, sales, HR, look at all the departments. Okay, you tell me which is the best department to make process. Okay, Yuvraj is saying HR. Okay, what about the others? Do you think legal will make better processes? Lawyers don't study process in college. Okay, IT, okay, IT and HR can make process together. Sure, very good. Who leads it? HR and finance can make, sure. So what is happening? Either you all are saying HR or you are saying HR plus another team. So common factor क्या हुआ? I would believe that finance should also have process, IT should have process. But there is one common factor in the whole process business. It is HR. And HR has connection. HR is the center of all the other teams. And CEO has said that, right? That you help in building the company. That's why HR is there. HR comes into picture when the company attains a certain size, right? Why? Because the company needs to grow, and for that HR needs to be there. So it's not for form filing work. You're there for these important aspects. So HR function is one of the most process driven functions, and you have a linkage with all the functions. Any team, check it out. Okay, just look at your role. You have connection with every team possible. Tomorrow you want anybody on the call, from CEO, CFO, CS, company secretary, chartered accountant, legal, everybody is on call. Agreed? Available to you? Say yes if available on call, like anybody in the company. If not, you say that. Very good. So now if you learn how to understand data, you can play a huge role here. And guess what? India is going to have a Personal Data Protection Act. Right now it's a bill. It will be passed soon in India. It's keeping on getting deferred for the past few years, but now the time has come. It's going to come. All the major technology law firms and Indian law firms are doing research. All corporate law firms, technology law firms are doing a lot of research on data protection because they know this is going to be the next big thing in India. Okay. Now, lawyers will only give you advice. Okay. HR managers will implement the process inside in the company. Okay. So the real work on this can be done by you. IT alone may not do this. I've been looking online, and even in the European Union, do you know something? Companies are struggling to hire dedicated data protection staff. You know why? Because this is job of somebody who is better positioned to handle in the company, and a dedicated data protection person doesn't know anybody. What's he going to do? Just manage data? That's a very strange job role. But HR can do that, and it will be a huge value add. Okay, so there's a huge talent crunch for data protection work. Companies even in the EU are understaffed. So you never know, your Indian company opens a branch office in the EU and they will say that you've led our data protection here. You please go ahead and do this in Europe also. HR teams are well poised to handle this function in-house. Now, there are three categories of data you must understand from organizational perspective. There is company data and secrets. Data protection law doesn't deal with this usually. This is going to be dealt with by your agreements, confidentiality agreement, IP enforcement. Okay, so if an employee goes and steals your next iPhone product plan and shares it with a local manufacturer or somebody like a Micromax. Okay, now how do you enforce? How does Apple enforce it against the employee? They will go to court, okay, or they will do arbitration. And we'll tell you how support for that also. Those of you who want to learn the basics of going to court and handling everyday civil and criminal proceedings, we'll teach you, we'll help you with that. Okay. But protection of company data and secrets is something you do for the company. Why? Because if you let one person get away, 10 other people will get away. They will say, boss, ऐसा पहले हुआ था ना, तो अभी क्यों नहीं हो सकता? तुम कैसे enforce करेगा? Okay, that is what they will say. That it's happened earlier. We can also do it. So you have to make a signal there that we enforce legal rights. Okay. Second thing is protection of employee data. Okay. This will build trust, but it will also be legally necessary once the data protection regulations come into force. And this is the biggest category. This is the biggest one where you want to get in. So category 1 and 3. If you do 1 and 3, 2 you will be able to do because 2 is a lesser form of 3. Okay, but customer data you need to really get into. Both of these are ROI related positions. These are not cost positions. They are not. If you do these, you will increase the employer's the whole productivity inside the organization. Now, what do you need to do? How do you do this work? You have to create appropriate consent and data retention procedures, implement policies for incident management and disclosure of data breach. Okay, what is incident management? Somebody hacked in. Okay, now IT will look at the hacking thing, but when that happens, okay, if somebody didn't even hack and there was like a security flaw, somebody could have hacked, you don't know. Now what are you supposed to do next? IT will tell you, boss, this is what our report is saying, our Amazon server is saying this was not secure at this point in time, there was a lapse. As an HR, you have to follow the principle and report the data breach to the proper authority. Okay, and if there's a loss, you'll have to kick in another process. This is a process. Okay, it's not technical skill, it is process. Technical skills the other departments will do. Training the organization's employees on data protection is important. And I'm not lining you up for today, right? We are doing this work for 4 months down the line, 3 months down the line, 5 years down the line, right? So you start with the code on wages and get into all of this, which means you're irreplaceable. Implementation of systems to minimize data risks, managing the process to inform customers about use of data, data protection measures. This is legally required in certain jurisdictions. You have to tell in the policy, this is how we use your data. If you want to erase your data, do this. And this is a part of product features. In the product, there will be terms and conditions and policies. On any app will have that. Okay, so you have to write those things down, and you as HR are doing that, meaning you are working with the legal, product, finance team together. Okay, so you're basically at the high echelon, high level of management. Anti-corruption work and whistleblowing. This is a new area of work. There's obviously, in India, the movement towards corruption-free India. India has anti-corruption laws. US and UK companies have very strict consequences for corruption and their laws. So US has a separate law. Okay, UK has anti-bribery act. In all of these, what happens is that if in the US, let's say they have a $10 billion, $50 billion company. In India, they have a small subsidiary. If they are engaging in corruption, okay, in India also, under US law, they will be punished with some a percentage of their turnover if it is found out. US law says you can't do any corrupt activity, even like you cannot offer bribes, unauthorized payments in any foreign country also. Forget US, any other foreign country also. So what the foreign company's senior management does is that in India, they will engage forensic investigation law practice. So the corporate law firms do this work and other forensic investigation firms do this work to check कि भाई ऐसा हुआ है कि नहीं. This is the external person is doing inside. अब as an Indian HR manager of a big MNC, how will you do this? This is what you can do here. Getting into anti-corruption, and इसमें technical work is not there. You have to create a policy and then you have to implement it. You have to create anti-corruption policy, train the employees, and then give them enough examples and then track. And nobody tells you, na boss, I made an unauthorized payment after you say you cannot make these things. So you have to create a whistleblowing system on top of it. A whistleblowing system means somebody else who's aware of this is going to get incentivized to report this, and you'll not fire him from his job, you'll not demote him, you'll not boycott that person. Entire sales team will not boycott somebody from another team, from marketing team, if that person says कि इधर corruption था, somebody paid unauthorized payment to a government official. So no adverse implication, anonymity will be protected. That you can do. Okay, now how do you enforce that? How do you implement that? That is the challenge for HR managers. Now, how many of you think that learning this actually makes sense, right? Say yes if you think it makes sense. Now, consequences of corruption. Sting operations, you all are aware. Sting operation में पकड़ा गया तो your company, government department, everybody reputation is gone. Criminal punishment is there under Prevention of Corruption Act. Any act you see, okay. In foreign statutes, there's disgorgement or payment of profits on the foreign companies all over the world turnover. Okay. Loss of contract can be there. The reputational damage is quickly followed by customers losing faith, clients terminating contracts. Okay. So point is that you cannot say by India mein dhanda aise hi hota hai. You cannot say that anymore. Right. And if you are working with a foreign company, harder to do that. How many of you want to work with MNCs either as consultants or as employees? Even Indian companies, you will need to now start doing that, okay? Because they are moving increasingly towards this trend. You know why? Because a lot of Indian companies today are funded by venture capital and private equity investors. A lot of these investors, whether they are Indian or foreign, they don't want to be in violation of the law. Before investing, they will do due diligence. Okay, they will check कहीं corruption तो नहीं हुआ है, is there posh committee in place, are there labor compliances in place? So if there are loopholes over there, they can say, boss, this is a very big loophole, I am not going to invest in this company. Okay, uh, that's where you're responsible. Or they'll say that promoter will take care of any problem, any fine, promoter will personally bear. Promoter will say, no boss, you are investing in the company, so the risk is shared. So that's where you get into say that, hello, there is only business risk, all these legal risks are not there. Okay, because you as an HR manager have a continuous opportunity to fix these situations. Okay, then another area, somebody was asking me as a lawyer, what can I do? Okay, executive employment agreements. This is a sure short way to gain importance at the board level. Okay, how do you do that? So senior level executives, even in case of Google, for example, there are various other companies. Okay, even there was Naukri also, but in Google, for example, the chef of the company got stocks, and when the company went for an IPO, those shares were listed and the employee became super rich. Okay, now the question is, you can do this for early entry level positions, mid level positions, senior management, all kinds of players. Okay, so how do you actually create these stock options is a very big task. I will show you stock option of 𝗨𝗯𝗮𝗯 I was trying to dig out. I'll show you towards the end if you all want to see. Okay, so they had applied to SEBI and they were saying that can we administer this specific kind of stock option? Ab isme what happens? Why am I saying this is not alone job of lawyers? Two reasons. Okay, lot of the numbers of performance appraisal lawyers don't do. It's either the reporting manager's work or the HR's work. Usually, reporting manager will look at it, but HR will say, "Boss, where is the parity?" Right? So, if you have to maintain cohesion between teams and you have to maintain parity, then who is involved? HR. If HR doesn't understand stock option, what will happen in the company? Everyone understands salary and bonus, PF. There you understand, okay. But here there is a secret backdoor of compensation called stock options, and you're also not even able to help out there. Okay. So what if you and stock options is something that really motivates people to stick on in the company. And by the way, if you've heard of this term called venture capital or private equity, basically investors, when they fund a company hundreds of crores or millions of dollars or tens of crores to grow, they will say, boss, 20 to 30% of your capital you keep aside. For what? For highest performing employees, you give them these options. So this incentivizes them to work. If I work hard, I have ownership of the company's value will grow, I'll get rich. Okay. So now administration of ESOP, maintaining parity across departments is best positioned for HR. Okay. Now a lot of you may know ESOPs, but you may not know how to draft them. We can help you out with that if you are interested in it. There is a new breed of this called phantom stock. Okay, who uses this anytime? A lot of owners say, I don't want to give the equity because I can give the cash value, the ownership, the dividend, the voting is not necessary. Okay, so a phantom stock basically says if your company is worth 5 crore, uh, today you are getting 1% of it, meaning 5 lakh. Okay, tomorrow if the valuation increases to 10 crore, you will get 10 lakhs worth of it. So I will give you the difference of 5 lakh. 10 minus 5 equal to 5 lakh. No shares, no dividends, only the cash difference. Designing this is very important, and HR managers can help, because you will think now, okay, revenue sharing, commission based agreements, profit sharing, annual bonus, ESOPs, phantom stock. You look at all of this and you can deal with it. If you can do this kind of work, you can work with global companies, you can work with Indian companies at any level possible, right? Listed companies, for example, use this. Why? Because SEBI has certain rules. Securities Exchange Board of India, stock market regulator, has rules for what you can do with stock options and what disclosures are necessary. So what they do is they want to go outside it. Then what do? They will start a phantom stock option or a stock appreciation right scheme. This, for example, is a scheme of 𝗨𝗯𝗮, and what they have said is to SEBI that, see, you have created these regulations, and this is for all employees getting various kinds of benefits. Now, please tell us. I am sharing our scheme with you. Please tell us whether your regulations will apply. Okay. So SEBI reviews the scheme, and they have given, this is the whole scheme. Okay, this is the whole scheme. SEBI reviews it and says that because you are actually not giving us shares, you're not giving the voting rights, only the cash benefit, then SEBI has nothing to do with it. But if you see the benefit and how it is calculated, you will see that HR managers will be important to do this calculation. Two people will do it, HR person will do it. So broad scheme can be made by a lawyer, but actual work has to be done by HR and finance together. Okay, you can also tie up with lawyer and company secretary. But imagine, you're working with such important people in the company. Obviously you are going to be very senior, right? How would it be if you could now do this kind of work? Another example, severance compensation. Okay, Indian company law has a provision on how much severance compensation can be paid. What is severance compensation? A senior level director will say, if you fire me, okay, now this was only there earlier, very famous in US and all these countries, but now coming to India also, Indian company law has provisions on it. So a senior level director will say that if I get fired, I'm in a very senior position. It's not easy for senior people to get jobs as compared to to junior level or mid level executives. So I need 3 years of my salary as severance compensation if you terminate. Unless, of course, you do a disciplinary proceeding and there's misconduct, that's different. But if you just fire me, like because I wasn't performing up to the mark, I had to double the company's turnover. Instead of doubling, I got 25% only increase, and you decide to fire me. Board can fire. Okay. So they'll say, pay me 3 years of compensation. They'll agree to it. Okay. Now, question is, how do you do this? How much can be agreed to? How much cannot be agreed to? What will be in the best interest of the company? From two perspectives: not increasing the payout and retaining the best talent to be in the senior most position. Both aspects. Okay. Now, I'll give you an example. Main founder of WeWork, Adam Neumann or Newman, whatever you may call, was able to negotiate $1.7 billion severance compensation from SoftBank. Okay, so when WeWork was valuation was plummeting, what will happen? Adam Neumann had to be fired, but he got this kind of severance compensation, 1.7 billion. It's crazy, right? Now these things HR managers can do in India. Okay, because why? It's part of compensation and benefits, right? It's not just the legal contract; it's compensation and benefits. Do you know what the Indian limits are? Can you help an organization with structuring these? Now I'll take you through something of non-compete, and second thing is director clawbacks. I'll come back to non-compete. It's not open here. So I'll give you an example. When Infosys hired its CXO level people, you know what it wrote in the contracts? If you leave Infosys, this was submitted to the stock exchanges. If you leave Infosys, you will not work with Wipro, TCS, and two, three more companies were not named. Why? Because non-compete clauses are very difficult to enforce in India. So they just said, don't work with these five companies. Okay. And this was filed. So big companies do this. Okay. And they take the litigation risk that even if I do this, courts may say this is illegal. Okay. But I can still do this, right? So what if, how would it be for you to implement these? Now you will write this if you are working, let's say in any startup, like let's say a Zomato, a Swiggy, a hotel. Every business has competitors, right? You think of any business, you're working in a mall, real estate, PVR, IMAX, anywhere you're working, you will have competitors. So non-compete kaise daloge? Okay, that you can advise, right? Because you're HR, you know everybody's JD, KRA, you know their competitors. Everybody doesn't know. Okay, and HRs are doing hiring, right? You know that HRs are there in the specific recruitment vertical. Usme, why are they not doing this? Why can they not do that? This part. Then there is director clawbacks. What does this mean? Suppose I have a commission, I get incentive based on, I'm a director, get incentive based on company's turnover. Now somehow it is realized that my turnover is inflated because of some fraudulent accounting practice. Then what will happen? I can take the money, uh, the company can take the money back from me. It is called a clawback, like clawing back. So I take the money back. Okay, this happened with ILNFS. This was started. You can look at this. Accounting fraud 20 for 5 years, and they wanted to call back all bonuses and benefits paid to former directors. Okay, why could you not lead those initiatives? Right, you can call legal team, they'll help you out, but why can't you lead this? You just understand the framework and then do that. What do you think? So is this going to be exciting and helpful for you? Say yes if it is, say no if it is. If it is not, how many of you are interested in this kind of learning? Okay, got it. So I'm going to share now. Do you want to learn more about how to accomplish each of these tasks? Somebody said, okay, what will happen with contract labor? What will happen if my JV is SIDBI and NSE? Some of the questions I will answer. Okay, but the question is that how do you get and develop the muscle to answer your own questions plus new scenarios? Right? So currently you're at one level, to acha, is level pe you have one doubt. Tomorrow situation changes. How does an HR manager work? Tomorrow situation changes. You will have to again figure out everything newly and you need external assistance. How do you become autonomous? कि खुद से आपने figure out कर लिया because you know these things. You can independently lead HR. Okay, you can independently guide legal. You can guide promoters that no, don't do this in the ESOP, do it like this. What if you could become like that? Okay, do you want to have access to periodic doubt clearing? Like you're working today, suppose you had a class on code on wages and payment of wages, but at work some other question came up. There was a notice from contractor. inspector regarding certain contract labor and the wages paid to them. And you want to ask, in the class something else is going on. So what if you could ask that, get it clarified by someone who has 40 years plus experience? Okay, what if you could access all these study materials? So many of you are asking me for this PPT. This is to still a document on scroll. But what about having hundreds of pages of similar documents which are actually giving you practical insights, templates, compliance charts, all of that? How about learning to make the MIS for your company? Okay, so we've conducted specialized training programs for HR managers from ITC, PSUs such as HPCL, Games to Win, Embassy Office Parks. We also conduct a 6-month diploma program in labor, industrial, and employment laws for HR managers. We've had HR managers from Chios, Nivea, Synthite, CAT Zone, Positive Electricity and Gas Private Limited, Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, MRPL, Shahi Exports, Nobel Hygiene. So you've seen, are you all familiar with these companies? TCS, Kansai, Nerolac Paints, SBI Life, Scorpion Express, Dr. Reddy's Institute of Life Sciences, Everest Food Products, Mochico Shoes, Systec, okay, Messe, Frankfurt Trade Fairs India, HP Professional Services. All these companies we've had HR managers working in these companies take up and study the 6-month diploma program in industrial and employment laws. Okay, HR consultants can use this. If you're a manager, you can use it in-house. If you're a consultant, you can use it to provide more detailed services to your clients. There's a lot of guidance on how to build up your writing skills and networking if you want to improve your profile. So why it helps is because tomorrow you want to change your job, change your company, or you need to change your city for a personal reason and need to find a new job. So how will you do that? If you want to, let's say, restart your career, but this time you don't want a job, you want to start by consulting private clients. How do you go about that? For those things, you need the knowledge and the skills. Plus, you need an online profile, some track record, and you need to be out there sharing on social media. So we train you on how to do that. Okay. So how will you learn in this course? I'm going to share about how we can help you learn all these things in detail. There are live online classes every week of about 1.5 to 2 hours, led by experts of 40 years plus experience. Currently, it's been Ashok Naik sir teaching for the past 8 months. I'll share his profile also with you all. Okay. 2 exercises per week. Every class, you are getting 2 real life pieces of work. Today, though, we didn't do real life work. I asked you a few questions, but we give you real life work. Okay, now respond to this show cause notice, or send this employee a notice of a notice to initiate disciplinary proceedings, write a warning letter, write an inquiry report. Okay, write a summons as the ICC of the organization, write a summons to this employee or this third party to produce evidence. So in ICC, what happens a lot of times in sexual harassment, people don't know कि organization के बाहर से witness कैसे बुलाना है. Okay, complaint was in a mall, I need a mall staff to be present. How do I do that? All these complex things are explained. Okay, MIS preparation of dashboards. If you are in a company, you can give it to the HO and the regional offices that, okay, these are your important officers, you have to watch out for this is where you go to, this is your compliance MIS. Okay, use this and keep tracking your situation. Okay, emerging areas like data protection and CSR are covered. But when you solve these exercises, okay, you draft that order, order of dismissal or order imposing fine or holding back the performance appraisal. How do you draft it? Then you need corrections, one-on-one personal corrections, right? So inline corrections are given. Okay, and every week you learn 2 such skills over a period of 6 months. You can block sessions with evaluators for one-on-one feedback. They'll guide you, okay, as to how to go about either the exercise, or if you want for your career, then that is also available. There are multiple categories of mentors. There are course anchors, there are evaluators, there are writing assignment coaches. Okay, and there's a student coach who's trained in psychology to help you out with your motivation and alignment of your course with your career goals, okay, and with your life goals. So all these mentors work together to ensure that you are able to actually absorb all this learning. Then doubt clearing is there in class and in our discussion forum on the group also. There's a WhatsApp group we have where students keep asking. These are students are basically people with anywhere with, some are freshers, but anywhere between 2 years, 3 years to 25 years, 30 years of HR experience are people who are doing this. Okay, real life doubts are answered. Okay, we don't say अरे ये lawyer का काम है, lawyer का काम मत करवाओ. No, we'll guide you and then you can take a call on what to do. in your matter. Okay, we give you the full perspective so that you can take a decision. Okay, obviously we don't do the legal work for you. Practical study materials and compliance checklists and all of this is available through an online learning management system. It's accessible for 3 years. Okay, so course is 6 months, but you study all of this for 3 years. That's totally available. Okay, hard copy materials delivered to you at your doorstep for, if you want to study from a book, that's easier for you. CV related guidance and placement assistance in HR domain is also being increased now. Okay, CV guidance will be given to you by a placement team. We are working on having more jobs and opportunities for HR professionals and HR managers. Templates of actual employment contracts, ESOP plans, all of these are included. 1 month refund policy is there if you use the course and you don't find it valuable. I'll just show you what the course is like. So this is the 6 month course. Okay, I'll take you through it. Briefly, I'll take you through it. Okay, not everything. Okay, so it explains why HR managers need to look at industrial and labor laws. Now, I'll share some. What is the work that you can use it for? You can set up your own consultancy practice, secure increment or promotions, create opportunities for lateral shifts, secure your first job. These are the purposes for which you could take it. Top 10 organizational initiatives. These I've explained some of these, so I'm not going to be here. Okay, then how do you learn? You learn to navigate the legal framework with confidence. Like I explained, code on wages. How many of you experienced the benefit with that? How many of you found it simplified a little? We do it a lot more in detail for every law so that you start enjoying it and you don't get worried in life. Okay, the fear goes away and basically you need to fall in love with labor laws, and that's a hard thing to say. Okay, but that has actually happened. I'll tell you here. If you see, there are many testimonials of learners who are all in various positions, but you can hear one person in particular. I was hearing Ruchi, I think Ruchi Gupta. She said that she developed an interest and the fear went away of labor laws. Okay, so you can hear any of these. Asghar Ali is a safety officer. I think he's in this session. Prachir Sogani had a consultancy which he expanded. He was doing primarily payroll and compliance related work that he expanded into labor advisory also, because people were getting stuck with at various points in time. There he started advising them. Okay, so the modules and exercises I'll show you. These are the list of weekly exercises. Okay, so what I made you do now, you'll do it. You'll identify applicable labor laws. You'll get the corrections. You'll go office wise for your branch. You'll prepare a labor law compliance calendar. You'll identify how to streamline your registers and filings. You'll determine working hours, overtime, holidays. You will draft employment letters, agreements. You will identify, okay, how to deal with, if you want to hire apprentices, NEEM trainees, interns, how to do that. How do you deal with payment of gratuity? All complex questions. Any level of complexity, you can bring it on. Okay, where in the class, draft those employment agreement clauses. Okay, identify. Okay, how can I differentiate payment bands and payment structures without it falling foul of Equal Remuneration Act? How do I create standing orders and review them? How do I identify the working conditions? How do I work with contractors? What needs to be done under ESI? Okay, statutory bonus is a very challenging subject for people. So how do I calculate it? Set on, set off, all of that are complex. Okay, how do I comply with Contract Labor Act, Factories Act? These are very important aspects in for industrial relations. Okay, then policies, maternity benefit, POSH, disciplinary proceedings, all of that is covered in detail. Okay, I'm going to go back. So there's a 1 month refund policy if you use the course and you don't benefit. So I'll take you to the refund policy. So it's basically you attend the classes for 1 month and do the exercises. If you don't find a benefit in that the course is benefiting you, you can claim a full money back. Why do we do this? We know, we have a lot of confidence in the product that we are genuinely contributing to you. So after 1 month of learning, if you feel that, this is not working out, then you are free to claim a refund. Okay, so we make this risk free for you, and we know that enough of you will want to continue, because you will find so much value that you will not want to claim your money back, but you will say, I want to study the course and realize 10 times the benefit in my career. This is the refund policy. I have explained to you in short what it means. Okay, course fee is So classes are on weekdays after work hours, or on Sundays. Class timing is 8 to 9:30 p.m. Course fee is 21,000 rupees. You can pay it in lump sum or in installments of 11,000 plus 10,000 rupees. Okay. If you pay in one lump sum, then there is a 1,000 rupee discount. It is 20,000 rupees then. Okay, because it saves us on our admin and recovery related costs, and sending you reminders and all of that. So we incentivize payment in lump sum. Okay. Now I've taken you through the course page. The last date for enrollment is February 28th. The course is starting from 1st of March. Okay, now I would want some of you to look at what students have said in the past about the course. So Abhishek will share the link with you on chat, and you can take a look. But I want to summarize the key takeaways that participants have cited. They found it simple enough to start from scratch. Okay. Also, irrespective of any industry they were in, they've benefited. Okay. They found it deep enough to handle strategic issues and day-to-day complexities both. One-off issues which are very challenging, and every day wherever they get stuck, that got solved for them. They could operate independently in the organization. They could work with seniors and lead initiatives, and they could also work with lawyers more comfortably. They have conquered their fear of labor law. They don't want to avoid the subject anymore. They are able to go in depth, and they have actually started to develop interest, and they've started liking the subject. You can, for example, see here any of the videos here in the on the course page. Is there anybody who's currently in the course? There was Nishant Nayan. I'm not sure if he's here now. Couple of you I had seen, you all were in the course and you are in the session. If you are here, let me know. I will unmute you. Yeah, PF calculation, everything, all of that is covered. You get pre-recorded videos and you get recordings of classes that you miss. Okay. EHS meaning, Prakash, can you confirm? As a lawyer, will it work in PF, ESI and payroll? Pratik, yes. And you should look at litigation also. Employment litigation, the whole stuff you will learn over here. Okay. Priyanki, pre-recorded videos are covered. Okay, now I would like you to hear, I'll not play them now here, but I would like you to hear the experiences of the people who have taken it here. It's there on video, right? And they have shared freely here. So Ruchi Aluwalia, HR director, senior people, okay, Shipra Kumar, owner and lead consultant at Artesian HR Consulting, Suresh Kumar, strategic director at, one second, I want to shut this chat. Yeah, at ET Strategic Talent Consulting. Then, so you have a lot of senior level people. Aarti Juyal, HR generalist at Agro Global Resources. Shruti Prashant, HRM, Human Resources Manager at Intercontinental Hotels Group. Okay, Mehak Chopra, student at Indraprasth College for Women, University of Delhi. She was studying HR. So you have a lot of people who share these, who've shared their feedback. Okay. Now, how to get started today, and how do you, so what is the benefit of getting started earlier? For those of you who are interested in early access, okay, start warming up. It takes time for a new system to be in, for you to develop a habit. So if you start early, see, in all these courses, there are limited seats. Now, if you start early, what happens is that we'll give you complimentary access to the classes. You can start accessing your study materials. Your hard copies will be ordered. You can start asking your doubts. Already so many of you have so many doubts. Okay, you can start asking those in the group. We can refer you to relevant sessions for recordings. We can address those on chat itself. Okay, a lot of that gets started, so you get kickstarted with the initial work, and by the time your batch starts, you've already done like a good 15-20% of the work. You can sit in the classes of the previous batch and participate, ask your questions. Okay, that's complimentary. We won't charge you extra for attending for 4 weeks extra. Okay, we are increasing job placement and client opportunity related support in this area gradually. Okay, now for the first 10 students who enroll today, I also have a further special offer, either as HR managers or as individuals, but more as HR managers. You have to once in a while deal with civil proceedings and criminal proceedings, right? Like, sometimes there's a labor inspector pressing criminal charges. You have to go to a magistrate's court and defend, or you have to claim some money back from a contractor. Okay, because contractor had, now you had paid the contractor and labor authority has levied a fine on you, and now you want to take it back from the contractor. Contractor has terminated the relationship with you, so you don't know where he is, so you have to file a civil case. Okay, that's one thing. So you'll have to file a civil suit. You'll have to, now how do you do that? You can draft and do it, but you'll have a lawyer, but how do you brief the lawyer? How do you go about it? For that, you'll need some drafting skills. Second thing, you want to send off, assume the contractor is working with you. Then what you'll do, you'll send off a letter of indemnity, okay, to the contractor, and you'll say, I want to claim indemnity because you've caused me 20,000, I've paid in fine, and I've paid you all this, and I've told you you'll do the compliance, but I've had to pay a fine. So under our contract, under our manpower supply contract, there is an indemnity clause. If you don't have it, we'll teach you how to draft it. Okay, there are 4 contracts, 4 civil and 4 criminal documents you learn how to draft, the most common ones. Okay, so you learn the letter writing and simple contract drafting very well, so you can contribute more to your organization. So for the first 10 students who enroll today, you will receive complimentary access to our 2-month executive certificate course in Introduction to Legal Drafting, where you learn contracts, petitions, opinions, and articles. This opinion part, you will learn how to brief your senior management and CEOs very well, whether it is for a CSR project or there is a big trade union issue and you need help from the central management. Okay, so for that, this is very important. Articles are very important to increase your employability. Okay, now you can use this to improve your drafting skills even for contracts. Manpower supply agreement, you want to draft, improve it. You want to improve your employment letter, a contract template. You want to improve your appointment letter with employees. All of this you can use. You can use it for some civil and criminal proceedings. The best thing is you'll be able to review the documents that your lawyer gives. And you will say, boss, add this, add this, add this. Now write this argument like this. That's the input you'll be able to give. Okay, when an external lawyer gives you a document. Okay, this course costs 9,000 but will be complimentary for the first 10 students who enroll today in the labor laws course. To make it a little easier, so that you can decide, take some action. Okay, what we have done is you can book your seat today. You can block your seat by making a smaller payment of 7,000 rupees. So you will not get access to the course, but you will lock this offer. This offer is available only to the first 10 people. So course fees 20,000, 21,000 plus 9,000 extra benefit. And in this also, we will give you the same kind of evaluation, live classes, all of that. And you can space it out. Okay, so you can do the labor laws course first and you can do this after that. All that you can space it out as per your convenience. You can do it anytime in the 2 years, in next 2 years basically. And to block your seat and to claim this offer, I'm just sharing how to go about doing that. Okay, so you go online, lawsikho.com/offers. Okay, and you block your seat here. Okay, you click on enroll now and you type your name and proceed for plan, make the payment. We'll get your payment in. That will be confirmation for locking the offer. Our team will call you up for the balance payment. Okay, balance payment is to be made by 14th. Okay, 14th. At least make, so what is balance payment? If you're paying the full fee, the balance for the full fee. If you're paying in installment is 11 plus 10, right? So you pay 7 now, so balance 4 will have to be paid by 14th. Okay, so that is how it works. And if you have any questions, you can take down Abhishek Dubey's number. Abhishek Dubey will give the number right now on which you can call him. Okay, Neha, the page is opening. Click on lawsikho.com/offers. And I'll share with everybody else. Okay. So those of you who are interested, this is only for 10 people. I don't want the seats to like randomly finish off. So I'm giving you all an opportunity. Out of 92 people, whoever is interested, go ahead and you can block your seat right now. I'm giving you about 5 minutes to do this, and then we'll come back and look at questions. Okay, so I'll wait here. And if once you complete your payment, you can mention here that you've paid. Neha, could you leave your number for Abhishek to contact you? Okay, Abhishek, you get in touch with Neha. Okay, there are only 10 seats. This offer goes out tonight. Okay, either by midnight or if 10 people enroll before. Okay, after that, the labor law course will be available, but this additional course will not be available. Okay, whoever wants a call, further guidance, okay, you have questions on whether this will be taught, whether you have questions on what will be taught, I will address it now. Anybody wants further guidance, you can take Abhishek's number. Okay, and I'll wait for a couple of minutes more and then we will start to take questions. So you all have any questions regarding the course at the moment? Some of you had asked whether PF will be taught. All of that is yes covered. PF, ESI, change salary calculation, all of that is taught. Environment, health and safety is covered. Okay. Okay, yeah, EHS, that's covered. Environment, health and safety is covered. You don't, Priyanki, you don't need experience to enroll for the course. As I shared lot of students experience, right? There are quite a few HR students also who come. Okay, about 10 to 15% is HR students, MBA HR or some HR course, and they also are able to catch up, stay and grasp it. Okay, so you don't need experience. You can be a fresher and do this. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to start looking at questions for those who are um, those who are considering enrolling, or you're on the site. Once you finish the payment, you can let us know whether certification is affiliated to any university. No, LawSikho is a private company, and we are as LawSikho, we are registered with the Startup India program, but we do not have a government certification yet. We are in talks with a government institution, but I'll let you know once that is available. Right now, it is not available, but if it becomes available, then you will have an opportunity to have that certification, but they may have certain some fee additional to be charged for the government certification also. We're hoping that it happens this month, but let it happen, then I'll tell you. Okay. Curriculum, Kalpesh, I'll take you through it. It is as per both. Right now, we can't do exclusively old laws and we can't do exclusively new codes. So we are doing both. New old laws are valid, right, until they are replaced. So old laws plus new code side by side on a particular theme. Okay, now let me show you the curriculum again. So I'm moving off this page. Mr. Malik, no university affiliation yet. Okay. So here we go. So were you there when I went through the exercises? That is what are the tasks you learn to perform. Okay. Now I'll share the legislations that are covered, and then I'll show the division of the course and the acts. Okay, major labor legislations are written here that we are covering. There are few more we are covering than what's listed. Shops and establishments is also covered. Okay, about 10 shops and establishments, 10 states ka law is covered. And sometimes if a participant is from a different state from what we are covering, we include that. Okay, so you'll see the codes are listed here. Okay, now I'll show you the chapters and all of that. So these are the specific learning objectives. This is what you will learn. Okay. Each one you can go through. And chapter list also I'll show you. It's divided, the classes will be divided into 6 segments. Wages and benefits, which will cover the laws listed here. And you'll do old law plus new law. Industrial relations, contract labor, again divided into these 3 patterns. And this keeps expanding, okay? So we keep adding new stuff. Then labor related litigation, shops and establishments and executive compensation in one bunch, organizational policies and disciplinary proceedings in one bunch, okay? POSH is also included in the organizational policies. POSH hearings are also included. You get access to a full template toolkit, which you can directly implement in your organization if you choose to use it. Okay. The experts who have contributed are Puneet Gupta, who has 20 years of experience as a labor laws practitioner. Nitish Chopra has 5 years of experience. Ashok Naik sir has 35 plus years of experience. And he's been like ex-senior vice president in employee relations at IndusInd Bank and various other public sector, private sector undertakings he has consulted. Okay. Chapters. Now here is your chapters. Okay. So first you look at how to go about comprehending central and state level laws. Sorry, 1 second. Is the screen being shared? I am so sorry, the screen wasn't shared. Here, 6 segments are here. I forgot to share screen. Income tax, why do you want to cover here? PFP income tax, we'll tell you. Sorry, I wasn't sharing by mistake. These are the specific learning objectives. Amit, you had pointed out. Then these are the 6 segments that we are dealing with, these segments. Okay. Factories Act is covered, Alka. Okay, now I'll show you the syllabus on the chapters, what all you have. Okay. So this is about how to go through the national and state level laws, how to identify which government system applies to you. Compliance tasks, how to get started with that. There's a compliance checklist also. Exemptions, how to claim major exemptions. If your organization, there are two regulations of the government, you have to look at that they will enable you to consolidate. There's ease of compliance rules of 2017, and there's a 1988 Act as amended in 2014. If you look at those, your registers and returns become so simple. Okay, we teach you that in the first class. Okay, no panelists from VGNLI or MGLI. Okay, then drafting for managers, principles for drafting, how to go about it. So what will happen is in the exercises we make you draft, but where do you read about how to go about drafting from scratch? Okay, so this is the lessons you need to know. Okay, and there's detailed guidance on this. Now once you know this, then you can apply it to your drafting, and then we will give you corrections on the everyday drafting task that we give you. Okay, then what are the types of contracts you can enter into with workforce, along with templates of each of these. Okay, then Child Labor Act 1986 with 2016, how does it work? How to draft different contracts, from appointment letters to standing orders. Specific clauses, there is jurisprudence, that there is actually a whole logic behind how a penalty clause works. Somebody was asking me, are employment bonds legal in India? So if you have, those things, those questions that keep coming up, those are addressed here in this segment. How to enforce non-compete or non-solicit, how to enforce a lock-in, how to work with contractors. Okay, then mapping all your responsibilities if you're engaging contract labor. Then a whole policy, your HR handbook that is there. So all the codes with the policies, their templates are here. Amit, you can go to the page link directly to enroll. I'll share the link. And if you want to pay booking fee, then you can go to lawsikho.com/offers. Okay. Either way, you will get the offer if you are amongst the first 10 people. Okay. Then I'll scroll, okay, further, because you all wanted to know what is there. So the page is big because there's a lot of content and we worked very hard on it. Employment agreements and how ESOP works. Tax on ESOPs and sweat equity law. So this part of tax is there, but anything you need to know in tax connected with employment, don't worry, we will answer that. Okay, we have a lot of in-house expertise on tax. Okay, but yeah, it's not an income tax course, but if you have something around employment, we will answer that, don't worry. Laws regulating remuneration, misconduct, and termination, most challenging part. So the process for disciplinary proceedings, the process for dismissals and discharge, how to minimize the risk that an employee leaving doesn't start competing with you, doesn't start working with a competitor, doesn't leak out your business secret. So there's a tool that you use. We teach you how to use an exit memo. This is not exit interview, this is an exit memo. Makes your legal aspect much more powerful. Then what to do when there's an M&A transaction? How do you handle union and labor issues? Okay, how to shut down a shop? Okay, disciplinary proceedings templates are there. Different notices, how to write your daily order, your final report, evidence collection, how to conduct inquiries, natural justice, document trail. All of this is covered. How to draft a termination letter, how to impose fine, dismissal and termination. Discharge is slightly different from dismissal, some of you may know, but how it's different and how to write that letter, because if you write your discharge letter like a dismissal letter, the employee will complain. How do you deal with the manufacturing sector? Okay, so manufacturing sector and service sector. Factories Act, Factories Rule, someone was asking me whether these are covered. Liabilities of occupier and manager, workmen's compensation, accident insurance, overtime, Employment Exchanges Act, profession tax, shops and establishments, full specific provisions under different acts. Advantages of setting up office in SEZ, practical takeaways, handouts, labor welfare, employment benefits and related compliances. So different welfare related aspects, trade unions, management disputes. So we teach you bipartite, tripartite settlement, how to go in conciliation proceedings before the labor officer, how to go to tribunal, how to go to court, industrial dispute mein kya karna hai, how to understand different types of settlement agreements, then dealing with inspections and raids, how to prepare for them also in advance. And Porsche is a separate part altogether, covered in exhaustive detail. Okay, so all of this is there. Okay. Abhishek, can you confirm Kalpesh's enrollment? All right. So yeah, with that, I complete the sharing of the syllabus. It was quite long. There is one part I haven't gone through. I'll go through the learning objectives also, so that you all are clear what is available. Okay. So this you will understand how you will benefit. You can navigate the central and state laws very conveniently. You can maintain records and claim different exemptions so that you don't have 20 records for the same thing. Then how to create customized policies. This is very important. You can't create some other organization's HR handbook in your organization. It will become a problem. How to map liability for directors and managers. How to minimize risk for labor law violations. How to do internal audit framework. Okay, how to deal with employees who steal organizational data. So you try to think that, is this going to be profitable for my CEO and for the board and for the investor? How to enforce a breach of confidentiality, how to deal with employees who start competing business, how to proceed against an employee who's in double employment, how to take action against a manager for code of conduct violation. Difficult ना, employee के लिए against you can do, manager के लिए कैसे करो? Okay, then how to draft an employment contract for a manager, customization of appointment letter, fixed term employment contract, how to draft and submit standing orders for certification. If you don't have the right terms here, it will not get certified because the labor will object, or even if they don't object, the labor commissioner will say no, this term is needed. Okay, so how do you have a standing order that meets your requirements, okay, but is also meets your requirements and get certified? Okay, how to amend those? So it's never going to be set in stone, things keep improving. So how do you amend your standing orders? How do you minimize risk while engaging contractors? How to structure contracts and work orders? How to structure effective retention bonuses? So there is a way of doing this. You can penalize employees, you can put lock-ins, and you can put employment bonds. All of that doesn't work, but a retention bonus, if you do it cleverly, will be legal also, and it will work to retain people. Okay, so that incentivization part will happen. So how do you go about doing that is taught. How to deal with pending salaries and workmen's dues and other amounts during insolvency. Okay, that becomes important. If a company is undergoing insolvency, pending amounts ka kya hoga? They'll ask HR. Who will ask? There's somebody called a professional called an IRP, insolvency resolution professional. Last kitna dues hai, acha iska kya status hai, you will have to explain. How to draft show cause notices for misconduct, conducting. So these are the things you will actually learn. Okay, this you can relate to your jobs. How many of you can relate this to your jobs? Say yes if you can relate. Say yes if you can relate. Say no if you can't relate. How many of you think that you could actually go to your seniors and say that this is going to help the organization? Forget your training. If you know this is going to help the organization so much that they are going to be like, please go, come ahead and do it. Please come forward and do it. Yeah. The ESOP plans. Then if sometimes what happens, Indian company wants to get foreigners. Okay. You've seen that movie about Kingfisher. The Kingfisher CEO was a foreigner. Okay, like that, many top Indian companies will have foreigner CEOs also. How do you give ESOPs to them? Okay, those aspects are covered. Okay, all right. So now let me look at questions. Any question? Any pending questions? Let's see. Shops and establishments under no code. Students of HR, Sushmita, can understand the course very easily. I don't know if you're still here, but yes, it can. You can. Chinita, you're going to have various technical legal questions. Okay, I can't resolve all of them, but Ashok sir knows a lot more than I know. Okay, so I don't have offhand answers. I'm sorry for this question. Okay, but Ashok sir will be there, and we get the questions answered through a variety of experts. So this will not be an issue. Okay, like this 20-30 questions come in every class. Okay. Uh, Dimple, your company is JV of SIDBI and NSE, central or state government? Small industry. So SIDBI and NSE are both central government owned, right? Just check online the ownership. If the joint ownership crosses 50%, then it will be central government. Okay, Dimple. How it will work for a company that is sub branch of a reputed FMCG like Britannia? It will be the state government. Okay. There is one exception under gratuity law. If a company has offices in multiple states, it is central government is the appropriate government. That's the only exception. And usually what happens is that because you have normally state government and for this one law central government, you will get notices from both governments and they'll say, Arex, give me also details. Why have you not complied with our law on gratuity? Why have you not complied with our law on the other aspects? That notice war happens between the commissioners and the organization. Okay, if employee leaves before 5 years, there is no gratuity payable. But the point is that if you gave them a CTC and said that I'm provisioning for your gratuity, then under contract law you will have to say that you will need to pay it out if that's how your employment contract is worded, Nishant, for gratuity. Ananya, is employment bond legal? Not unless you can establish damage. Usually you can't. The employment bond amounts are huge. 30,000 ki salary mein you can say 2 lakh employment bond, so those will be easily struck out. Okay, instead you have a retention incentive structure. Okay. Okay. Pramod, for you don't have to wait for state amendments for shops and establishments. Mr. DS Malik, weekly assignments is going to be not difficult, doable. It's going to be a little of a stretch. Everything doesn't come on a platter, right? So we do push you a little, but on an average in your own time, it doesn't take more than 8 hours in a week or 7 hours in a week, inclusive of classes. Okay, and there are like evaluators can guide you on performing that. We also share, like once the students submit, we also mark one draft as a model draft and say that this is the model draft. You're expected not to copy it, okay, because then that student's marks will become yours. That you should not be copying it, but we guide you on how to solve the assignment. So every week there's a feedback session taken by the evaluator explaining to you how to solve the assignment. So one is the session taken by the expert teaching you everything, the practical work, then how to solve the assignment. One more session is taken by the evaluator. It's optional for you to attend. And if you have a doubt, then you can block a one-on-one session with the evaluator also. Okay. And if you don't finish the assignments in time, our team is usually very supportive. They'll give you more time to complete assignments. And you can watch the recordings, ask doubts, and you can then complete the assignments. Okay, which other questions are there? This video is also live on YouTube. You all can watch it on LawSikho's YouTube channel later if you want to revise anything. Okay. All right. So I've completed. Any questions you all have, please feel free to ask right away. Anybody has any other questions? You all want to share how you can implement this learning? Timings of the course, all the sessions are organized after 8 p.m. on weekdays or Saturdays or on Sundays. So far, we've been having sessions for the past longest time I know, Thursday, 8 p.m. onwards. Okay. And if you're working at that time or you're in transit, you can log in from phone. You can also tell your employer, manager, whoever it is, that one day you'll not be available at 8 p.m. onwards. And I am pretty sure if you demonstrate to them how you're going to work on increasing the company's ROI, they'll be pretty happy to accommodate one day. Okay. If you miss a session, you will get access to the recording and you can ask your doubts to the evaluators and in the discussion forum. Okay, so you don't lose anything if you miss a session. Try to attend live so that you can ask your questions and get the resolution faster. But yeah, you get access to all the recordings. Timetable will be published. The schedule is published in advance. Okay, you have a sense of the sequence, that what the sequence is going to be. So all those things are covered. You need to plan yourself, right? So we will tell you Thursdays 8 p.m. This is the sequence. One thing can happen from time to time. We plan ki acha disciplinary proceedings will take 3 sessions. It might take a 4th session. That can happen. Okay, that much flexibility you need to have. Are the certifications digitally verifiable on digital media? There's a registration code for every certificate. Okay, that is there. But we have been, we'll work on that. This is an interesting one. Somebody else had also said it earlier. Basically, we'll create an index so that somebody can go on LawSikho site and verify the certificates. But don't worry, this will not be a problem for you. And I'll tell you, actually, you might be thinking that it's about the certificate. Nah? The most important thing is about the tasks that you're performing. The certificate is useful because it indicates what you can do. But when you go to your employer saying that, you show them the drafts of disciplinary proceedings, mock hearing reports, you show them employment contract drafts, then they'll be like, chalo, you do this work in my company. And then you do that. So after that, they don't care you have completed the course, not completed the course, attended the sessions. It doesn't matter. Then it becomes purely skill. Only certain government jobs will say that you need diploma in HR or something like that. And even there, because there are barely any government institutes doing this, they don't say that you need it from a university or a UGC recognized institution. All that is not said. They just say take a diploma in HR for this purpose. Okay, so that is how it works. And of course, if we get a certification from a government body, we will obviously give you all an opportunity, but there may be a small additional cost that will be there, okay, for the certification body's fees. Okay, any other questions, anything else I can help you with? Total course fees is not 7,000. I mean, please don't put me on a spot like this. The blocking fee is 7,000. Total course fee is 21,000. Okay. If you are paying in lump sum and you pay in lump sum by 14th, then it is 20. But otherwise, there's a 1,000 discount. But otherwise, it's 21,000, 11,000 plus 10,000. Okay, 7,000 to block the complimentary offer. Abhishek has said there are only two more seats left. Okay, so this kind of learning, man, if you want in 7,000, I don't know what will be left. Don't we have to pay people salaries to evaluate your courses? Don't we have to pay class faculty to teach? Don't we have to, like, we're conducting this amount of high value workshop for 3 hours for free, but everything can't be like, people have to build a career from teaching and they have to run their lives. Okay, but I can assure you, you will get much more than 10 times of your investment. So you will recover more than 2 lakhs. Okay, through your career advancement, promotion, additional clients, all of that I can tell you very easily. You can check also, you will find people who have taken the course and given testimonials. Prachir, Sogani, all of them are there on LinkedIn. You can reach out to them. Nirzari, yes, it will be taught from basics. If imagine, okay, this stuff HR managers don't know, lawyers don't know, but if an HR student can also complete it and share a testimonial, you'll understand that basics will be taught. Anything else I can help you all with? So think about this, okay? 2020 was strange year, right? We had a lot of people losing jobs, pay cuts, all of that. 2021 is different. Hiring is back in full swing. There's remote hiring, there's hybrid hiring, there's physical workspace hiring. All forms of hiring are going on. Okay. Now the question is, how will you use this year to move ahead in your career, cover up for 2020, and set yourself up for a whole new decade? This next 5 years is going to shape that. All the stuff about executive employment, CSR, data protection, these are the emerging trends. And the labor law and the labor codes is going to be one step in going forward. If you're able to just deal with labor laws and labor codes, you will already be much more ahead in your organization today. And if you go with CSR and data protection, all the new stuff that I spoke about, in a matter of a year or two, you will have a different aura and a status in the organization where you work or as an independent consultant. That's what you've got to be eyeing. Make a long-term plan. Don't think ki, array 20,000 for one course. No, think about what's my 5-year plan. 5-year plan for 20,000 bucks. Now that is cheap. Okay. And the question is really that, because you're not taking up a course to get a paper certificate which is verifiable on LawSikho website. You're doing this to actually learn and acquire skills and use it right away. So if in 1 month you've done 8 exercises, I can bet you that you can do that work in your organization in real. Okay. All right. So everybody who's here, there may be people who've blocked their seats and who may have logged off. But if you all are, those of you who are here and you've paid and blocked your seat, you can let me know here. So there are 2 people left for 2 seats left for claiming the offer. This will close when 10 people have claimed the offer or by midnight, whichever is earlier. Okay. If you all need any help, you all can let us know. Cheers, everybody. Have a great evening. And our team is available. You have Abhishek's number. Feel free to reach out to him in case of any doubts. And Amit, don't worry about the fees. Okay, cheers. Anybody wants to speak? Asghar, Nishant, you all went through the course. So if you want to share anything about your experience, you're most welcome to. Asghar was there in one of our earliest batches. Thank you, Riti. Are your questions answered? And please keep attending my sessions on labor and employment laws. I'm going to discuss a lot of exciting themes. I'll show you what sessions I'm conducting, which are upcoming. They are free sessions. So I'll just show you the webinars that are coming up. I'll be doing something on Wednesday. And you can join. Abhishek, can you get the link of the WhatsApp group?
Webinar WhatsApp group?
WhatsApp group for employment laws.
Okay.
Bhavna keeps one.
Okay. I will check it.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll just show you. Okay, and I'll be doing another here the webinars. Sorry. Which legal skills are necessary to grow your practice as an HR consultant? This is one. What are the legal skills needed for HR managers of a global manufacturing company? Free webinars, you can click on register now and register. How to handle employment related formalities of CXOs, a 360-degree perspective. So the severance compensation, all of that, I'll teach you more about it there. Okay, so this is on 16th February. You can join our WhatsApp group. You'll get updates on these. And those of you who are interested in these topics can just register now straight away.
Sir, I'm sharing it within 2 minutes. Bhavna.
Okay, so we can wait for a couple of minutes because in that group, if you all are there, then you can keep receiving updates very easily. Would you all like to share some takeaways? What can you implement? This is the link shared by Abhishek. Click on it and you will get into the WhatsApp group where we will share newer updates on this area. All right, any takeaways you all want to share? What you can implement in your organization? Askar, is there anything you want to speak? I'm allowing you to talk. Raised your hand, just allowing you. You want to share your experience, Asghar? You here? Yeah.
Sir, am I audible?
Yeah, you are. You can share about Asghar, your work, your experience, and what you learned, how you benefited.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. First of all, I'm very thankful to you, and I came to know about today's session, and I recalled my previous sessions, and in these 3 hours, I was attentive, and I was taking every time I was learning that in this short time you attended all the parts of the labor laws. One thing that is very much important on this part, I would like to share that my background is technical, and I'm basically a mechanical engineer. So
and a safety officer, no?
Yes. Then I transferred in the safety department, but in the sites and in the companies, when the labor-related disputes are more, and when the especially the contract labor hiring and such type of how to engage the contract labor and how to comply the labor laws, that was the issue, and that was the problem for the organization. So especially when the lockdown was there, many of the contractors run away, and the sites were unattended due to the lockdown. At that time, the organization faced a very drastic problem. So your teaching helped me a lot, and I am very happy to share not that now this time I am heading HR department.
Wow.
So one thing that I would like to share, that the degrees from the government institutions, the degrees from the universities, these are definitely, maybe this is valuable for the government organizations, but for the private organization, the work matters. For the organizations in which the solutions on hand is required within a short time, that matters. And I am very happy that the quality of course and the beauty of the course is into the syllabus that you teach, and into the assignments that we learn, and the practical problems that we discuss in day by day in the form of assignment, that helped a lot. So I'll say that the whole course is not theoretical. This is based upon the personal learning, and for this I'll give the credit to all my friends, and especially to Abhyuday sir. Thank you very much. This is the takeaway from my side.
Thank you, Asghar. Credit goes to the team who has been working on this, and to the faculty who are teaching now. Thank you so much, Asghar. I'm glad you benefited, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Pratik, I have been very clear. 7,000 is the blocking amount, Pratik. Please look at the course page, okay? All right, so thank you, everybody. Have a great evening, and stay tuned for the webinars. I look forward to seeing you in the webinars as well. See you, and if there are any questions, feel free to contact Abhishek. Bye, everyone. If the group is full, we'll send you a mail with a new group link. Okay, Amit, drop your number here so Abhishek can take it.